Naruto Uzumaki died at the Valley of the Ends. Unfortunately for a certain Uchiha, Naruto the Kyuubi was born as a result of the Chidori impaling the seal. Now Naruto has to get used to living as a walking force of nature while Konoha learns to live with a mountainous fox in their backyard. So hey guys, the series name is What If Naruto Had Power of Nine-Tailed Fox Again? So let's start the series. Kyuubi seethed in his cage, his fur actually singed, unable to believe what had just happened. He wanted to yell at the boy for his incompetence and weak heart at not going for the killing blow against the Uchiha when their two enhanced attacks collided. But even the fox himself couldn't have predicted what happened. Sasuke didn't go for a killing blow either, he didn't even aim for the chest, and there was no way it was intentional. But Sasuke had hit, of all places, right into the seal on Naruto's stomach. Normally, this wouldn't be a bad thing. Seals on living hosts were not as easily destroyed, especially when said host had regeneration. However, the mix of the Uchiha's corrupted chakra had actually done damage to the seal. If this was because he was an Uchiha or if it was the cursed seal, Kurama didn't know. All he knew was that he felt the shock even in here. That wasn't the bad part. The bad part was the damage. Seals were complicated things, like multi-layered locks with extra contingencies possibly built in. The fourth seal was unlike other seals. It was infused with the death god's power, making so that even he, the greatest of the Bijou, would die if this brat were to fall and never rise again. The seal had, unfortunately, lost part of its link to Naruto's life. The result of this was not Kyuubi being able to escape when the Uzumaki died. Oh no. The result was the seal registered Naruto as dead, right now, which he nearly was. But Kyuubi could bring him back even from being this close to death. Unfortunately, the seal didn't know that. All it registered was that Naruto was dead, and so was ensuring that the Bijou would soon be as well. The Bijou growled, sensing the death god's pull on his soul. It was just a tug, for now. But Kyuubi just knew it would start dragging him into the afterlife if he didn't do so willingly. The great demon sighed, not being able to believe this was his end. I am Kurama, greatest of the tailed beasts. I, the one who dwarfed all my siblings in strength and size at my peak. I, who could level mountains and raised waves with a flick of my tail. I am to be laid low by a few humans with a knack for sealing? He thought in outrage as he slammed his fist into the ground. I guess you were wrong, father, he said softly, thinking back to the one human he ever liked, the Rakuto Sennin. Me and the rest aren't going to be reunited in any manner of the word, he lamented softly, feeling the pull getting harder. Cold, so death's grip really is cold. He mused to himself as he looked out of his cage, spying Naruto laying in the water, unconscious even in his mind. He blinked. His red eyes blinked as he looked at the boy, untouched by death's grip. Even without Kyuubi's chakra, he still clung to life like a starving man clung to food. Even as the great demon lay there dying from pure coincidence, the boy refused to die from all the strain and injuries the battle had caused him. Kurama's eyes slowly rose to look at the seal, right where he knew the lock was. He didn't know enough about sealing to alter the seal in any way, and even if he did, there was no way to escape the Shinigami's grip. A great hum echoed throughout the cage, ripples forming in the water as the Crimson Kitsune smirked. He didn't know enough about sealing, but he knew someone that did. He pulsed his chakra, staving off the Reaper's touch. Just a bit. He had a little bit more time left before he left the world with his own legacy. Meanwhile, Sasuke panted and sighed as he looked down at Naruto's prone form, down at the side of the river, from atop the cliffside facing the direction of the Sound Village. He actually hadn't been trying to kill Naruto in the end, deciding that he wouldn't kill Itachi just to become just like him in the end. However, the lone Uchiha was a bit unsure if Naruto would survive in his defense. It was his first time using the Cursed Seal's second stage, and had hit Naruto's stomach when he meant to hit the chest, opposite side of the heart. As Naruto had survived a wound there already, he shook his head, deciding to head onwards before someone showed up and finished the job for Naruto. If he got the Manjiki Sharingan, he'd know if Naruto had died. He stopped, just as soon as he had turned. As he felt something, he turned slowly, looking down to see that same red chakra spreading out from Naruto by about 10 feet in all directions. It caused the river water to evaporate and turn into a cloud of steam, obscuring his view as it rose out of the valley. What now? Sasuke asked in annoyance, and just a touch of dread. If Naruto pulled out a final trick, Sasuke doubted he could hold his own. He fell backwards, landing on his rear, as a pillar of blood-red chakra burst through the steam, climbing high into the heavens, shaking the earth with the sheer magnitude of its power. Sasuke could only stare, eyes wide as the malevolent chakra swept over him, almost like it was trying to choke the life out of every living thing in its reach. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Pakken stopped dead in their tracks, their eyes going wide as they felt the demonic chakra. The wind, light as it was, suddenly changed directions as the chakra reached them. Kakashi, that's... Pakken trailed off, unable to say it, almost unable to keep himself from dispelling in fear. Yeah, that's the Nine Tails all right, Kakashi confirmed with a steely look in his eye, and sweet on his brow as he looked up and saw the pillar of red chakra, high in the distance. Naruto. Sasuke, what did you do? He whispered in dread, about to continue running towards what might just be two more teammates he had failed. Wait, Kakashi, look! Pakken called out, pointing back to the pillar again with his paw. Kakashi looked back up at it, wondering what Pakken was pointing at before, looking confused as the center of the pillar started to turn a golden sun shade of yellow, steadily spreading and converting the rest of the pillar's light. Come on, Pakken, we might not be too late after all, he ordered, confused but hopeful. Konoha, Lady Tsunade! Shizen yelled as she ran into the office, finding the Hokage staring out the window. I know, I felt it too, she confirmed grimly. Send out messages to all our shinobi. Have them recalled to the village immediately. She ordered, Shizen leaving with a nod. Anbu. She called, her guards appearing in an instant. Monkey, have everyone high Chunin and above mobilized. Tiger, instruct all mid Chunin and below to start evacuating the civilians. Mouse, have every clan head and the village elders informed. The Kyuubi has returned, she instructed, all of them nodding and obeying. But even they were obviously nervous. Naruto. Tsunade thought sadly. Keeping up a strong front. Are you dead? Sarutobi's journals state that Kushina survived releasing the Kyuubi. Then again, there's little chance that your furry friend would let you live after being its prison for so long, she mused in sorrow. Jiraiya, you better get back here fast. You're the best shot we got if this really is Kyuubi returning. Valley of the End. Sasuke, like his sensei and unlike the Hokage, saw the golden chakra forming in the red pillar, spreading through the rest like a virus almost, but Sasuke, being much closer than Kakashi, could feel another change. The hate, the anger, the unholy bloodlust were all fading, but the sheer magnitude of power sweeping over the area was just as intense. His eyes dilated for a moment as the yellow chakra completely converted all the red chakra, the ground and air shaking violently for a second before the pillar seemed to implode on itself, sending out a shockwave for miles in every direction and slowly scattering the steam. Sasuke slowly rose, barely able to bring himself to move, as he stared into the smoke, looking for any movement, any sign of whatever had caused that much power. There was no way that Naruto had all of that. Just what does he have? What does Itachi want from Naruto? He wondered numbly, unwillingly, in awe of what he had just witnessed. In an instant he saw it. On pure instinct, he activated his Sharingan, ingraining the next few moments into his brain forever. A giant hand, with golden fur and enormous claws, rocketed out of the steam clouds straight towards Sasuke. He jumped to his right, barely avoiding the great hand as it grasped onto the ledge. The Uchiha defector followed the length of the rather lanky arm, the strike having dispelled the smoke even more, and locked eyes with two giant slit blue eyes that were coming towards him, very rapidly, along with a set of equally giant fangs. Turning around to run as fast as he could, he soon found that his now enormous foe had leapt completely over him and landed a relatively short distance in front of him, making the Uchiha skid to a halt and back up, just as he was about to attempt to hide in the trees from this beast. He went wide-eyed and ran back towards the valley as the Golden Mountain swiped its hands across the ground in a wide arc. The attack leveled the trees to the ground that weren't flung into the air, leaving no place to hide. With his back now against the ravine, he stared up at his adversary. The glaring blue eyes of a giant golden-furred fox bore down on him, with long ears that had black markings that went down and around the eyes. It was easily as big as the toad Naruto had summoned to fight Gaara. The fact that it was a giant fox, like the beast that had nearly destroyed his now former village over 13 years ago, should have registered first in Sasuke's mind, but it didn't. What registered instead were those blue eyes that stared into his very soul. There was no mistaking those eyes, even if they were slit. Naruto? He asked in disbelief and shock. Sasuke! The fox roared, truly roared, in a deep and growling voice that boomed from him Fang jaw, his mere yelling shaking the valley as his 9 tails raised high above his head to swish angrily in the air, drawing Sasuke's attention to them. It can't be! There's no way! You're the Kyuubi? Sasuke yelled, unsure if he was angry or scared at that thought. Naruto, however, went wide-eyed before narrowing his gaze and growling dangerously. "Tia-me!" Naruto roared, almost unintelligibly, slamming two of his tails on the cliff on either side of Sasuke, causing it to collapse. The Sharingan user gritted his teeth, nowhere to jump to and too injured and low on chakra to try any significant wall running. As the ground fell out from underneath him, he gasped and silently screamed in agony as he suddenly found himself in the grip of a giant fox with opposable thumbs. He struggled to stay conscious as he looked up and saw Naruto was holding him right in front of his giant mouth, lathered with teeth that could rip through metal. Sasuke wasn't sure if it was the fear or the pain, but his world went black after that, his nightmares filled with the haunting images of a golden Kyuubi. With Sasuke unconscious, Naruto sat the runaway down on the ground as gently as he could. The blonde kitsune scowled as he sat on his rear and looked down at his human-like paws, opening and closing the furred fists. As reality seemed to dawn on him, he had become the Kyuubi. He was now a giant fox with 9 new limbs to worry about. Out of all the things he could have done, he settled for sighing and running a paw through his head, trying to remember what happened. I may die, but the power of the 9 tails will not be so easily erased. This is my gift and punishment for you. Brat, you will replace me as the Kyuubi, the strongest of the Bijou, and if you fail me, if you disgrace my title, I will hound you in the next life we meet to know and go now. Naruto, my legacy, so say I, Kurama, greatest of the 9. That was what Naruto had heard, weakly, in his head as he began to transform in that pillar of chakra, the voice of the fox, tired yet triumphant, calling out to declare his power even as his soul was taken by death, to show that he refused to go without leaving something behind, something to prove that he had existed, that his might was not just a myth. Rough day? Kakashi asked, making Naruto blink himself back to the present to see his Cyclops of a sensei was crouching on the end of his snout, giving him a nice smile. Sensei? Naruto asked in surprise, barely even feeling the weight on his nose, before blinking and glaring. You couldn't have gotten here a little earlier, he yelled, making Kakashi cringe and cover his ears while sending a lot of chakra into his feet to keep from being launched off. Don't yell! You'll make me go deaf! Kakashi yelled, his ears ringing a bit. Well, at least I know that's you, Naruto, he said, sticking a finger in his ear to hopefully clear it out. You know anyone else with blonde hair and blue eyes that is related to the words Kyuubi no Kitsune? Naruto asked dryly. Right, Kakashi said sheepishly. There any chance you can make yourself smaller? Preferably in human form. But a fox would be fine, he asked hopefully. Naruto stared at the silver-haired Jonin for a long time, making him very uneasy. What? He asked with a sweat drop. First off, get off my nose. My nose is starting to itch and my eyes are starting to hurt from trying to look at you there, Naruto requested evenly, getting a noise of understanding from Kakashi, who jumped down to stand on the head of Uchiha Madara, the statue closest to Naruto at the moment. Can you hear me up there, with those big ears? Kakashi asked curiously as he watched Naruto scratch his new nose. Yes, I can hear you just fine, Naruto answered with a sigh. And I just got this body. What makes you think I know a thing about making it smaller, let alone changing it into something else? He asked plainly. It was more wishful thinking than anything, Kakashi admitted, scratching the back of his head idly. You're not at all curious about what happened? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. In regards to the battle itself? Another time, as for what happened to you. I'm going to assume that Sasuke Chidori'd you in the seal? Kakashi guessed, Naruto's ears perking up a bit in surprise of that accurate guess, before dismissing it with a massive shrug. Shouldn't we get him back to Konoha? Naruto asked, jamming a thumb and 2 tails in Sasuke's direction only to blink and realize another Kakashi was already over there at the boy's side. I sent a clone to check on his vitals. He's exhausted and got a lot of stuff broken, but nothing seems fatal, Kakashi answered, looking sidelong up at Naruto, looking very unsure. I'm just trying to figure out how we should handle. He paused to wave at Naruto's massive size. This. Naruto sighed, a bit tiredly, at that reminder. Yeah, I don't think they'll be too happy to see a 9-tailed fox walking up to the village, Naruto admitted, his ears drooping. Naruto, you okay? Kakashi asked in concern. The golden kitsune gave him a tired, dry glare. No, sensei, I'm not. My best friend just tried to kill me. I'm tired. I've turned into a giant walking natural disaster, and I just want to go home and sleep, Naruto admitted. Sounds like a plan to me, Kakashi said with a nice smile, getting Naruto to perk up, looking at him oddly. My prank senses are tingling, Naruto said curiously as Kakashi chuckled and headed over to Sasuke, picking him in his arms. Naruto blinked as he looked over his shoulder with what looked like a glare, but was actually a squint. He hummed before shaking his head and walking onward with Kakashi. A man with a face that was half pitch black and half pasty white, and appeared to be part Venus flytrap, came out of the bark of a tree, sweating bullets as he stared at the behemoth of a fox. This could be trouble, the two voices said, each equally worried, as he disappeared into the tree again to report to the Akatsuki. This was not good, at all. A Kyuubi, however inexperienced, was not a foe to take lightly. Meanwhile, Kabuto flinched as he perceived the scowl beneath Orochimaru's now bandaged face. The snake Sannin had been forced to use a different body to switch with or risk dying, meaning he'd have to wait 3 years to switch again. What's worse, he found out that Sasuke's flight from Konoha had been foiled, meaning the Sound 4 and Kimimaro were probably all dead by now. Honestly, Kabuto couldn't think of a way this could end without his master being furious at the loss of the Uchiha. The fact that the Kyuubi seemed to be released, right at the border to Rice Country no less, was just the horrible desert to this meal of failures and disappointment. And yet, Kukuku, Orochimaru laughed with a small smirk. How very interesting, he commented with dark amusement. Lord Orochimaru? Kabuto asked, stunned at the reaction. You felt it, Kabuto? The hatred, the bloodlust? The malevolence crushing over the lands like a plague? Orochimaru asked toyingly. I did, Lord Orochimaru, but it feels as though it's faded away, Kabuto answered, a bit unsure. Exactly, Orochimaru affirmed smoothly, and yet, the oppressively massive chakra remains. One can feel it miles away, but it lacks the malice the Kyuubi has always possessed. What could that mean, my lord? Kabuto asked, confused and a bit worried. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say our dear young Naruto has just stumbled his way into a new state of existence, he said musingly. A new state, my lord? Surely you're not saying that? Kabuto asked in alarm, unable to understand this very simple idea, that the young container has become what he contained. The Kyuubi, Orochimaru confirmed with another chuckle. Perhaps I was a bit too hasty. After all, depending on how Konoha reacts, I might have just found something new to study. After all, being immortal is one thing, but being a Bijou, why, that's just short of godhood to us frail humans, Orochimaru mused. My lord, what about Sasuke? Kabuto asked curiously, still trying to swallow the idea that talentless Naruto could now be the strongest of the Bijou. Leave him, Orochimaru said dismissively. As tempting as the Sharingan is, it is not worth bringing down the personal wrath of something of that magnitude. Only a fool would so readily make such a being perceive you as an enemy, he reasoned thoughtfully. Then what do we do, sir? Kabuto asked with a gulp. Orochimaru turned to the medic ninja with a smirk. Calm yourself, Kabuto. It doesn't suit one of your skill to be so easily alarmed and unsettled. For now, we shall wait and see who the real fools in this game are, he answered, turning his senses outward. The wind of the Kyuubi, it might be enough to break the windmill itself. They were ninja. Rank and overall experience regardless, they still understood the fact that their lives were filled with strangeness. From bending the elements to warping the mind to altering the body in the most bizarre ways, they were not easily stunned into silence. They were adaptable. They were reactive. They were ninja. Yet, seeing one Kakashi Hatake riding on the head of a golden version of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, I smiling down at them and asking if they need a lift? That was a bit too much for anyone. Kakashi-sensei? Rock Lee called out in surprise, seeing his sensei's rival riding on top of the Bijou. Yo, Kakashi greeted with a peace sign and a nice smile. Guy-sensei is going to be most impressed if your flames of youth tamed such a beast, Lee announced, still too shocked to say much else. Gaara remained silent, eyes wide and wondering why Shikaka had suddenly gone so quiet. The behemoth Kitsune glared with a tick mark, making Konoha's miniature green beast gulp. He didn't tame anything. Bushy brow. Naruto barked in annoyance. Said bark made Lee struggle to remain standing as the wind whipped by him. Kakashi just looked a bit sheepish at the scene. Naruto Uzumaki? Gaara asked slowly. Who? Lee gaped in shock, his jaw dropping with comically wide eyes. Gaara, Naruto greeted, eyeing the redhead for a moment. Nice new look, it suits you, he commented idly. Gaara legitimately didn't know how to respond to that. What do you say to a bijou complimenting your wardrobe? Thank you? He tried, looking to Kakashi with a raised eyebrow, who just smiled back. Gaara was sure the Cyclops had planned this on some level. Lee shook himself out of shock as he looked to Naruto in confusion. Naruto, you have been a giant fox of chakra this entire time? He yelled in disbelief. Naruto deadpanned at that. Yes, Lee, I was like this the whole time. I was tempted to release a few tales when you sent me spinning during our first meeting, he answered sarcastically. Now, play nice with us, fragile Ningen, Kyuubi-sama, Kakashi requested jokingly. Yosh. Lee cheered, to even Naruto's confusion. Your flames of youth must truly burn brightly. To bind your enormous power, in a quest to find a worthy rival and to live among the mortals, all the while retraining your power. Truly inspiring. He yelled with fire in his eyes, as if inspired. Absolute silence followed. Bushy brow, that was a joke, Naruto informed as Lee blinked in confusion. I got all of this just now, yesterday. Taxonomy would have said I was human. Oh, apologies, Naruto. I must have misread your tone, Lee said with a grin, letting loose a loud but good-natured laugh as everyone's sweat dropped. Am I really that bad at sarcasm, or is it just not coming out right with this mouth? Naruto muttered, scrunching his eyebrows. No, it's just Lee, Kakashi informed with a whisper. So, you two need a lift? Kakashi asked, pointing his thumb towards Naruto's back. We could use a couple of extra hands in case Sasuke wakes up and tries to bolt again. That and I might crush him next time if I'm not careful, Naruto added in, tapping one of his fingers to the ground for effect and causing a minor tremor. Lee already exerted himself more than he probably should have, and I would wager you might outpace my sand with little issue, Gaara answered as he composed himself, using a sand cloud to levitate them up onto the fox's back. There they found Sasuke Uchiha, bound in chakra-suppressing tags, ropes and plastic handcuffs for good measure. You better not get sand in my ears, Naruto grumbled half-heartedly as he raised his head back up, eyeing the nearby area of the bone forest. Geez, Gaara, did you let Shikaku out to eat a summon boss? Gaara asked, looking back at the battlefield, realizing it looked like a boneyard to the uninformed. Our enemy could grow and manipulate his own bones, Gaara informed, not sure if Naruto was already aware of this or not. Did he summon or create a giant skeleton? Naruto asked bluntly. No, just a bone forest, Gaara answered, not fazed by the question. What a waste, Naruto grumbled as he started walking again, towering over the trees that he leveled with every footstep. I'm just going to assume that Shikamaru is, or was at the very least, where those leveled trees are, he stated, seeing the anomaly in the distance. Damn, one perk of this body. I got one hell of a view whenever I stand up, he mentally mused, enjoying his far-seeing gaze, enhanced by his size and sharper senses. That'd be a safe bet, Kakashi agreed. Well, that went well. If what Naruto told me is right, Choji and Neji were probably taken back to the village already, since they broke off first. Shikamaru and Kiba might still be there, with or without the medics being there, but they might already be running from the giant nine-tailed fox, Kakashi mused to himself. Meanwhile, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Temari whispered in terror as she and Shikamaru ran and slid through an opening under a pile of trees. No one said anything about Bijou. She snapped to the Nara, feeling the vibrations in the ground get louder. She had seen what the one-tailed tanuki could do. She had no desire to see what the nine-tailed fox could do. News to me too. I thought the Kyuubi was dead. Shikamaru retorted, sweat gathering on his forehead. What? You can't kill a Temari started, only for Shikamaru to cover her mouth quickly and point ahead of them, above from their laying position. There, bottom half pinned under the trees and smirking back at them, was Tayuya of the North Gate. Hello, motherfuckers, she greeted, a small trail of blood leaking from her mouth. As they stared at her in horror, I'm going to fucking die here, shitheads. There's damn near next to no chance of avoiding that. Still, I think I'd rather enjoy taking you cunts to hell with me, she said as they went wide-eyed, too far away to grab her and with too little room to attack her, not to mention the shaking getting worse and worse. Hey furball. Come here, I got a snack for you, a leaf sand banana split. Don't worry, you can have me as the fucking cherry on top. She yelled up to the sky with a vicious grin. Wow, the ladies really do go for the cute and fluffy stuff. One is already offering their virginity to you, a voice said from right above the tree logs. Wait, I know that voice, Shikamura mused, Temari nodding in confusion. What the oh, you got to be shitting me. Tayuya growled in frustration. Good news, shitbrains, it's your friends. Now get out of here so I can gag on my own tongue in peace, she informed with a scowl. The two blinked, looking to each other before slowly crawling back out. They nearly shat their pants as they peeked out, and saw the giant nose and teeth hovering just a dozen feet above them. Oh gods, one, or both, of them squeaked. You two have fun in there? Kakashi asked with a nice smile, appearing behind them as they jumped in alarm, Temari about to strike with her fan. Kakashi! Shikamura shouted in surprise. According to my birth certificate, yes, Kakashi answered with a chuckle. Don't sneak up, you! Temari yelled, jumping as the titanic kitsune snorted and blew hot air on her. She shivered as she stared up into those blue eyes that held some kind of evil intent in them as her brother sat on its forehead. Wait, what? Gaara? She called up in surprise, seeing the redhead standing up there with a curious expression on his face. Then he did the strangest thing ever, of all time. Shikamaru and Temari, sitting in a tree Kisasayan-ji, he sang off in a monotone, leaving Temari gaping as her mind shut down. I fail to see what this has to do with being a younger sibling, Naruto. Gaara commented in confusion. Gaara, while I may not have a family, I have observed many in envy, and siblings, older and younger, always take time out of their days to embarrass their siblings every now and again, Naruto said sagely with an amused yet tired smirk. Wait, Temari said slowly, did he just say? Shikamura continued, Naruto? They both finished as they looked at the golden mountain before looking back down to an imaginary outline of Naruto. They looked back and forth several times before they came to the same conclusion. WCAA-? Shut the fuck up! Naruto bellowed, covering his ears as he jerked upwards. Yeah, his ears are a bit sensitive at the moment, Kakashi informed, wiggling a finger in his own while Temari and Shikamaru swayed from the onslaught their ears just endured. Naruto, please do not jerk around so much. You almost sent Sasuke flying into the horizon, Lee requested, one arm grabbing the thick fur and the other holding onto one of the Uchiha's bonds. Hey, Cyclops? Tayuya called with a blank expression, eyebrow raised, and still trapped beneath the logs. Am I hallucinating here? Is the blood loss getting to me? She asked curiously. No, this is real, Kakashi assured with a nice smile. Then all you leaf ninjas are bats hit crazy, Tayuya said bluntly, says the woman working as a lapdog for the mad scientist born and raised in the leaf. Naruto countered with a smirk. Wasn't on his damn resume, Tayuya muttered with an eye roll. What rock did Orochimaru find you under that you didn't know that? Kakashi asked with a raised eyebrow. Don't you mean what log he found her under? Naruto corrected with a smirk. Screw you, furball! Tayuya yelled with a growl. With what? Naruto retorted with a head tilt. No, seriously, with what? You're fucking over Flufftails, you piss-stained fox. Tayuya rebutted. That's just some weird version of masturbation, Naruto countered with a raised eyebrow, suppressing a smirk. No need to insult someone on their deathbeds, Naruto. That's just cruel, Kakashi mock scolded. This is getting weird, Temari noted with a sweat drop. So that's how it is, huh? Shikamaru asked calmly after a moment, getting everyone's attention. Naruto looked at him with a scowl, knowing that Shikamaru was, while a friend, too smart at times. I knew you were something special, Naruto, troublesome, extra troublesome, but special, just wasn't expecting it to be this big, he continued, scratching his head with a sigh. Just get your pineapple head on my back before I leave you two behind, Naruto grumbled with a glare, holding out a palm for them as Kakashi shined back onto his head. Kakashi, get back down there, Naruto said bluntly as he lifted the two intellectuals up far enough to jump the rest on their own. Huh? How come? Kakashi asked curiously. 'Cause we're not leaving her, Naruto answered bluntly. What? Why the hell would we save her? Temari asked with a scowl, Shikamaru raising an eyebrow. Eh? What about me? Tayuya called up, straining her ears to hear anyone besides the overgrown fox. Naruto, she's an enemy ninja, Shikamaru pointed out. Naruto let out a long and annoyed sigh. one of his tails snapping in aggravation. Okay. The nice answer is because I don't want to leave a fellow ninja in a state where she's likely going to be either eaten alive by wild animals or captured by anyone else that might have been drawn by all the commotion. But if you want a pragmatic answer, it's because she fucking works for Orochimaru and can give us info after we save her, Naruto answered, his voice getting louder with his frustration. Or did I dream up that class lesson that shinobi use capture and interrogation? There was a long silence after that before Kakashi looked over his shoulder. I smiling at the passengers. Anyone else want to argue with my adorable and fluffy student? He asked cheerfully. You're his sensei. Control him. Temari whispered with a glare. A. He can hear you. B. I'm not stupid enough to try. C. Even if I was, the answer is still hell no. And D. He's right. Kakashi listed off effortlessly. Any more stupid comments or questions from the supposed geniuses? Naruto asked dryly, Temari gulping a bit but remaining silent. No? Good, sensei. Hurry up so I can go home. I believe Naruto's flames of youth are being replaced with flames of annoyance, Lee commented to himself. You know, if you fuckers are just going to freaking torture me, feel free to just eat my ass, Taiya said flatly. Sensei, one more sex joke and I'll never let you read Ika in peace, ever, Naruto warned, making the man pause, looking up at the blonde as if debating if the bijou could actually succeed in such an endeavor. Think you can lend a paw here? Kakashi requested, motioning to the logs. Naruto gave an enormous eye roll at that. Lazy pervert, he muttered, starting to move aside to him, tiny bits of wood while trying not to further crush the redhead. This is one of the weirdest days I've ever had, Temari commented with a sigh as she sank down onto the soft, golden fur. Temari? Gaara said, causing her to look up at him curiously. What did Naruto mean by a weird version of masturbation? He asked with a head tilt. There was an awkward silence, which was quickly and violently broken by the new bijou. Oh hell no! Gaara, you are not getting an advanced birds and bees lesson on my back. Naruto snapped, glaring over his shoulder at his passengers, making them all shiver under the gaze of the giant blue orbs. It's bad enough you're using a goddamn bijou as a taxi service. Leave the fucker some dignity, Taiya commented, a clone of Kakashi holding her bridal style as the original jumped back on Naruto's head. Now you're on his side? Shikamaru asked with a raised eyebrow. The crippled sound Kunoichi shrugged. I'm fucked royally and screwed just as epically no matter what I do. I figure I might as well as enjoy whatever is going on here, Taiya said with a shrug as Kakashi's clone brought her up onto Naruto's back, staying around to keep an eye on her. So, what was that about you and Gaara's sister doing the split, Shikamaru? Naruto asked with a dry smirk as they both face-palmed. I feel like I'm not getting a reference, Gaara commented blankly. Kakashi and his clone just chuckled to themselves. Well, this just keeps getting more interesting. And Naruto? He asked as the fox trotted. Interesting, right? Exactly the word for it, Naruto muttered with a small smile. Meanwhile, Konoha wasn't the only one reacting to the birth of the new Kyuubi. No, most of the continent knew something was up by now. Perhaps few more so than a single red-headed Kunoichi in the grass village. Being a censor, Karen had sensed something going on in the east, something powerful but distant. But the moment the full power of the Kyuubi had been unleashed, the instant that pillar of vile chakra formed, she collapsed to her knees, retching as her stomach emptied its contents onto the ground. It was too powerful, too sinister and overwhelming for her to even cope with. As if it was going to burn away her soul, her entire body went numb as she mentally stared at it. Unable to look away, she didn't even realize her nose started to bleed from the stress it caused her, or that her arms clawed into her side. Then, all at once, there was a light in the darkness, a gentle warmth amongst the burning hatred. It was small at first, but quickly grew as the hatred weakened, as if cleansing or feasting on the hatred of that chakra to add to its own. With time, the flicker of light became a beacon, then in fire, until it was like she was staring into the sun itself, comforting and life-giving, but completely overwhelming all the same. Where am I? She asked, blinking herself back to consciousness, finding herself in a hospital bed. You gave us quite a scare there, Karen, a female voice noted. Karen's head shot up and stared at the woman next to the door, Kasakabe. She greeted in surprise. While Karen wasn't exactly happy with the situation she inherited from her mother, she did have some allies among the grass, if not outright friends. This petite, short-haired brunette with brown eyes was certainly one of them. The Kusugansui was a bit worried when one of our most gifted censors fainted in the middle of the street. The Chunin commented idly as she sat on the bed. A white cat with 2 different colored ears, one brown and the other gray, sitting on her lap. Karen rolled her eye at that title. Since they weren't one of the major villages, their leader wasn't officially recognized as a kaiga by the rest of the world, so the person running a lesser village either gave the middle finger and took the title anyway, or, more normally, took up a different title. The Kusugansui, or Grass General, was theirs. Karen, what happened? Kasakabe asked with a serious expression as she petted her cat. I don't know, Karen answered absently, mostly honest. I felt this chakra isn't even the word for it. It was like looking into the heart of hatred itself. But the raw power it excluded nearly crushed my mind, she answered softly, clenching the bed sheet. Calico sensed it too, you answered, her cat meowing his agreement. He said it was like being the mouse for once, only against the saber-tooth, she quipped lightly, her feline friend glaring at her jab. Kasakabe, what did happen? Karen asked curiously, cautiously. The Chunin shook her head. We're still verifying it, with scouts heading to the border. But she paused, looking at Karen with a steely glance. We think the Kyuubi returned. At the border of the land of fire no less, she answered with a scowl. Karen gaped openly at that. Her eyes dilated as she processed that. How far? She asked numbly. The Valley of the End, by the looks of it, you answered solemnly. It hit Karen like a ton of bricks. That's still 2 whole countries away from here. Nearly 3. All that distance, and it was still that intense? She thought in disbelief. She had known about the bijou, everyone did, but she never imagined just how outclassed the average ninja was to one of them, let alone the strongest of them. Karen, Kasakabe spoke strongly, putting a hand on Karen's shoulder, snapping her out of her trance. I know you've been through a lot already, but can you tell me where the Kyuubi is now? She asked, leaving the unspoken question in the air. Is it getting farther away or closer? Karen would normally be a bit annoyed at that moment, but swallowed her tongue as she cautiously leaked her sensor ability back out. She was very glad she couldn't go blind with her sensing ability, or she would have already. She blinked as she found what she was looking for. I have good news, and Karen trailed off unsurely. Bad news? Kasakabe asked with a raised eyebrow. No, I don't know what to call it, but it's news, Karen answered in confusion. It is getting further away. I'd say it's a halfway to the center of Fire Country. But don't quote me on that, she answered, having trouble locking onto that mass of Chakra's precise center. That is good. I can tell the Gensway we're not about to die, Kasakabe said with a small smirk. And the other news? I thought I was imagining it or just feeling relief after my sensor ability shut off. But Karen paused, scrunching her eyebrows. It's different. What is? The Kyuubi? Kasakabe asked with a frown. Yeah, it's the hatred is gone, all the malevolence, everything is gone. Now it just feels warm, still massively powerful, but not burning your mind with hatred. Karen rambled a bit. I have no way to describe it adequately. Am I making sense at all? Yes, what you're saying. Not really, Kasakabe answered, not sure what could make a bijou change the nature of its chakra. That thing must really not like Konoha. If it's heading BA-, Karen muttered, freezing in shock. Karen? You questioned in concern, seeing the redhead sitting there with a pale expression. I think it saw me, Karen whispered fearfully. It looked right at me, I swear. Meanwhile, Naruto? Everything okay? Kakashi called up from the rocky river, seeing Naruto looking off to the northwest with a suspicious glare on his face, giving him a very angry look. I think someone is watching me, Naruto noted idly, everyone's sweat dropping. Yeah, probably everyone in the elemental nation is one way or another looking in your direction, was the general thought shared amongst everyone. Anyway, Kiba and Kankuro aren't here, Kakashi said as he looked around the area again. They must have killed their opponents and hightailed it out of here when they saw us coming, he deduced. Can't imagine why, Temari muttered sarcastically. Naruto ignored that, focusing on his sensei's words. Opponents? Kiba was only fighting one guy, Naruto noted with a head tilt. Well, this other guy is either a twin or a clone, so he might have been hiding somewhere, Kakashi answered with a shrug. We'll get the story from them when we get back, Naruto decided with a shrug as his sensei jumped back on. Any more stops? Unless you want to go sightseeing? Kakashi suggested, holding his hands up in a shrug. Maybe tomorrow, Naruto answered, yawning a bit, coming off as a loud roar. You sure Niji and Choji are back in the village? Naruto questioned even as he continued his walking, Kakashi having leaped up back onto his back. With you walking around? Definitely, Kakashi answered evenly. The medics probably rushed them back the moment they thought the old Kyuubi was back. Naruto grunted at that, choosing to not make a comment to that but instead occupying himself with some eavesdropping. So any chance in hell of you bastards letting me squeal and skip the whole torture part? Tayuya asked in a grumble. Maybe, but depends on Anko's mood. She has a personal desire to squeeze every ounce of info on Orochimaru out of you, Kakashi informed idly. Fucking great, Tayuya muttered. Still, assuming you don't try to lie or leave anything else, they might be lenient since none of ours died on this mission so far at least, Kakashi added on thoughtfully. Now who's being cruel? Shikamaru muttered under his breath with a sweat drop. Naruto, Gaara called out absently, getting everyone's attention and receiving a loud hum. The Kyuubi, the old one? Is it Dash? He's dead, Naruto answered bluntly, no obvious show of sadness or happiness over that fact. Gaara's eyes went wide at that statement. Gaara? Are you okay? Temari asked, leaning over to place a hand on his shoulder in concern. Gaara slowly looked to her with shocked eyes. He's wailing, he answered numbly as Temari looked confused. Shikaku is sobbing. Temari looked shocked at that herself, the rest as well, openly gaping at her little brother while Kakashi narrowed his eye at that. But unseen to the others, Naruto scowled as he marched on towards home. The trek to the village was quiet, or, at least as quiet as a walking kaijukitsune could be. So we're just going to walk straight up to the village like this? Shikamaru asked slowly. Yes, Naruto answered bluntly. Don't worry, I'll send a shadow clone ahead to inform the Hokage, Kakashi assured with an eye smile over his shoulder. Shouldn't we vacate his back then? You know, in case they try some kind of preemptive strike? Temari asked nervously. I should be able to protect against anything that should reach us, Gaara pointed out neutrally. And I'm fairly sure I can take a hit or two, Naruto mused. You're just oozing with self-confidence, Tayuya snarked with a smirk. You got one of those seal thingies, right, Red? Naruto asked with a scowl. Yeah, why? Tayuya asked with a blink. Did you know what your new body could do the first time? Naruto pointed out dryly. I see your point, Tayuya said sheepishly. I didn't even know I had fucking horns until the third Timwao. The entire mountain of fur, muscle, and chakra came to a complete halt, sending everyone jerking and Kakashi nearly falling off the head. What the hell, Naruto? Shikamaru asked, blushing as he found his head between Temari's open legs. You had horns, Naruto repeated in a deadpan. Red, please tell me that somebody made horny jokes? Everyone, especially Tayuya, face-palmed at that. Yes, asshole, they fucking did. She answered in irritation. Oh, thank you. Someone had to have. But I'd rather it not be me, Naruto said with a sigh of relief as he began walking again. Naruto, a little warning would be most appreciated, Lee called, nearly losing his lunch at that sudden stop, which he found strange, as he never had that problem before when moving at high speeds, but he had never rode a Bijou either. Consider it training for riding on a giant summon's head. Naruto called back with a chuckle. That is true, Kakashi admitted, though, in fairness, fur seems to be harder to hold onto with chakra, he mused thoughtfully, remembering riding on some toads with his sensei a few times. Naruto? Gaara spoke up. Shikamaru had his head between Temari's legs. Does that warrant another song? Gaara asked curiously. Kakashi almost laughed as he saw the enormous ears perk up at that, and felt the massive muscles moving beneath his feet as the eyes widened. What the fuck are you two doing on my back? Naruto yelled in outrage. Nothing, we swear. Temari promised quickly. It was an accident, honest. Shikamaru added in. I don't know, your face was getting really deep in there, Tayuya teased with an evil smirk as they glared at her. What is with you? Temari yelled in a hiss. You paralyzed me. Tayuya hissed back. To be young again, Kakashi said wistfully. They can be young off my back. Naruto snapped. New rules. No fucking, making out, or anything else eki on my back. I'm not a taxi and I am not a place for a quickie, not even if it's two girls? Kakashi proposed with an eye smile. Maybe, Naruto conceded after a long moment. Really? Temari asked blankly. My back, my rules. You got a problem with it, I can give you the express route home, Naruto said, making them all flinch as one of his tails snapped in the air. You know, a shadow clone might dispel on the way. I think I'll go in person, Kakashi said cheerfully as he walked to the side of Naruto's head. Wait, you're leaving us here alone? Temari asked with a bit of panic. Of course not, I'm leaving you with my fluffy student, he'll take good care of you, Kakashi promised as he jumped off the side and vanished in a swirl of leaves. Temari watched over the edge, to where he had vanished, slowly looking up to the Goliath, slit blue eye, watching her without amusement. Got a problem with that, Sandy? No. Everything is peachy, Temari assured quickly, scurrying back to her seat. What the ever-living shit is fucking wrong with you? Tayuya asked blankly. I'm sorry, but I'm still a bit intimidated by the gargantuan forest animal filled with razor-sharp teeth, Temari said with a sickly sweet smile. We don't have many summons in Suna, Gaara filled in offhandedly. The fact that I beat your brother as a human probably doesn't help much, Naruto said with a smirk. No offense, Gaara. None taken, Gaara answered uncaringly. Wait, what? Lee and Tayuya asked at the same time. Oh, you never heard, Lee? Gaara was going full raccoon mode during the invasion, so I ended up fighting him before he killed anyone, Naruto supplied with a shrug. Please don't shrug, Lee requested weakly. So you fucked up a bijou, before you were a bijou? Tayuya asked slowly, smirking a bit. Goddamn Foxy. I wouldn't put it like that, Naruto said awkwardly. Shikaka wouldn't either, Gaara informed, hearing his demon grumble about the insults. At least it wasn't wailing anymore though, the sniffles were still a bit disturbing. They all fell into an uncomfortable silence before Naruto let loose a mighty sigh. So okay, screw it, the silence is boring. Red, why did you join up with the snake? Naruto asked with a scowl. Tayuya paused, considering her options before giving the situation a fuck it shrug. Didn't really have anything else. I was an orphan brat in some back alley town, living on the streets, she answered uncaringly. Know the feeling, Naruto said with an eye roll. Would you have taken the offer? Tayuya asked curiously. Probably not, but just because I'd like to think the guy would have come off as too creepy for me to consider, Naruto said idly. True, but well, no offense, but I didn't want to end up as some gross fucker's ass toy. At least with Orochimaru I got to be a bit badass, Tayuya said with a smirk. Better than Team's Reason, Naruto said with a snort. He's still out cold, by the way, Tayuya informed. Good to hear. I really can't put up with his bull right now, Naruto said with a sigh. Impatient little fucker. Naruto, you do remember you were the smallest of us, right? Shikamaru reminded with an arched eyebrow. And now you're all bite-sized, Naruto said in annoyance. Could you all stop pissing off the fucking bijou here? Tayuya requested with a groan. Everything we say pisses him off. Temari countered. Sue me, pigtails. I'm fucking tired after the day I've had. Naruto snapped with a growl. Temari, Gaara addressed neutrally, please shut up, now. Meanwhile, Tsunade would admit it. She had no idea what the hell she was getting into. She hadn't been here when the Kyuubi got free all those years ago, she had not seen the destruction it wrought, nor had she felt the pure overwhelming power of its chakra. The air grew heavy when it was still a distant blur, announcing its presence for all to take notice of it before they even felt the ground trembling. Everyone, get into position! She declared loudly from outside the walls before bringing her hand down as a great cloud of smoke appeared around her. Tsunade-sama, you called? Katsuya asked respectfully. Against the bijou, a summon had two initial uses, either a surprise attack or as a diversion for the demon to focus on. She chose the latter. Katsuya, I'm actually sorry to bring you into this, Tsunade said with a sigh. The Kyuubi is free again. I see, Katsuya acknowledged with just a hint of hesitation. I will aid you in any battle, Tsunade-sama. But I fear I won't be of great aid against such a foe. Tsunade smirked a bit. Don't sell yourself short, Katsu. Besides, your first role here is keeping its attention while we spring some traps to stall it, she informed. Slow it? Katsuya questioned. Yeah, Jiraiya definitely felt it too, so we're holding up until he gets his ass back here, Tsunade explained with a scowl as she looked over her shoulder. There were at least 100 ninja dotting the walls of Konoha, now seemingly empty with every non-combatant in the safe houses. I don't particularly like the plan, but it is the best option, Katsuya agreed as she watched the enlarging shape approaching them. Tsunade-sama? Does there seem something strange about the Kyuubi to you? She asked, sounding like she would frown if her face allowed it. She had never seen the Kyuubi in person, but something was off about it. That would be the nice shade of gold you're noticing, instead of the usual crimson, Kakashi said merrily from Tsunade's left, making her nearly jump in surprise, not normally something that he could do. Sneaking up on a Kage, but with her attention on the giant fox approaching, he couldn't resist, and thank every survival instinct he had to duck under that annoyed punch. Kakashi. I thought you had gotten eaten, Tsunade commented in surprise. What took you so long? It's a long story, Hokage-sama, Kakashi said with an eye smile. However, I do know a way to help the situation, he assured confidentially. Oh? Do tell, Tsunade requested, knowing Kakashi had been there that night. Even if they hadn't let him participate, surely he would have some sound advice? Stand down, Kakashi said in a blunt, calm, casual voice. Excuse me, what? Tsunade asked with a scowl. Did you just tell me to stand down while a Kyuubi is marching on our village? Yes, I did, Kakashi answered, unfazed and smiling. And why, pray tell, would I do that instead of having you committed for obvious insanity? Tsunade asked with glare. Because, as you said, it's a Kyuubi, not the Kyuubi, Kakashi answered vaguely. What are you babbling? Tsunade asked, scrunching her brow at the statement. In response, Kakashi held up a pair of binoculars for her. She raised an eyebrow, but took them nonetheless, looking through them. The Kyuubi was indeed different, as there was no way they got the hair and eye color so far off. Instead of a fox with red fur and eyes running at the village, she had one calmly walking towards them with golden fur and blue eyes. You can't be serious, Tsunade whispered as the binoculars slipped from her hand in shock. Mission success, Hokage-sama, Kakashi said with a salute, smirking a bit at her. I suggest letting my student report in so he can drop off our escapee and his passengers, Kakashi recommended. Tsunade looked to Kakashi for a moment, then back at the still approaching fox, its features now plain without aided sight. The fox looked more than a bit annoyed, but mostly tired. Stand down. Everyone stand down! Tsunade yelled at the top of her lungs, echoing throughout the area. Several shinobi, confused and fearful, quickly jumped out of the path of the approaching Bijou. The fox didn't even look at them, continuing towards the village with eyes locked dead on Tsunade. Tsunade-sama? Katsuya asked nervously as the beast of living chakra got closer and closer, the ground shaking more and more with every step. Just trust me, Katsuya. If I'm wrong, you can kill Kakashi. Tsunade promised as she could hear various shinobi talking in voices of fear and terror. The copycat ninja just smiled at the threat. The ground shaking beneath them, or rather, the giant slug underneath them was, but same difference. Katsuya trusted Tsunade, and respected her greatly. But as the great vulpine head eventually came to loom so close to her own form, she couldn't help shivering in fear. There was a lengthy silence as the Bijou stared down the Kage, every last soul watching in anticipation. You lose weight, Ba-chan? Naruto asked with a small smirk. Naruto! Tsunade screamed in utter disbelief. Sure, she suspected it, but hearing it was another thing. Coincidentally, several other ninja yelled the same name around the same second Tsunade did. This led to everyone who didn't already start putting two and two together, to gap in disbelief. Yes, now quit your yelling, all of you! Naruto yelled back as he rubbed his ears, silencing all of them with his booming voice and making several ninja fall backwards in fright. Yes, to answer your question, I'm a megaton fox now, deal with it! Naruto snapped as he rubbed his head, looking over the village to see all the faces either confused or terrified, or both. That's Naruto? Sakura whispered numbly. The baka is a kaiju, Ino whispered dumbly. Wait, so the Gaki became the fox? Anko commented, blinking owlishly. How does that even work? This could be problematic, Hayashi summarized evenly, trying not shiver when he swore the creature looked at him. He's a bit tired and grouchy, Kakashi whispered to Tsunade. I can see that, Tsunade whispered back. I can still hear you, Naruto said with a glare, making many of the onlookers clam up and worry that he could hear them. First downside of being a megaton fox, everything is louder. Tsunade swallowed briefly as she tried to stare down the Kyuubi. No, Naruto. Naruto, what did you do? She asked, trying to sound stern with moderate success. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. I fucking won. Now will all of you assholes get off my back? I was actually starting to relax until Lee puked on me, Naruto called over his shoulder, as he heard several people make noises of disgust at that. Second downside of being a megaton fox, everyone can hear everything you say. Sorry, Naruto, I am unused to this form of movement, Lee apologized weakly, too low for any save Naruto to hear. Yeah, bushy-brow Gaara, could you? Naruto requested. A few seconds later, a large cloud of sand hovered off of Naruto's back, transporting 2 Suna ninja, 2 Konoha ninja, 1 crippled Oto ninja and 1 bound traitor, the last of which was now awake and struggling in his bounds. Yeah, duck but head woke up, Tayuya commented as they were lowered onto the still nervous slug boss, the Uchiha muffling something as he tried to look at Naruto with an alarmed and pale expression. Least he's gagged. You said it, Naruto said with an eye roll. Right now, he really didn't want to deal with anything, really. A mission complete, Lady Hokage, Shikamaru greeted awkwardly. Tsunade stared at the group for a long time. Anbu, get the Uchiha to a cell and the rest of them to the hospital, she ordered loudly, several masked figures appearing to take them away. A bit slower than normal as they stayed cautious around the bijou, Tsunade turned to the Suna shinobi awkwardly. You two are free to find your brother, he's somewhere in the village, she informed. The siblings nodded, Temari vanishing in a shunshin while Gaara glanced back at Naruto for a moment before disappearing in a swirl of sand. The remaining group fell into an awkward silence. So what's with the red head with the broken legs? Tsunade asked with a raised eyebrow. Screw you, tit-whoring bitch, Tayuya swore in annoyance. What did you just say? Tsunade asked, one part pissed, one part shocked. She's one of Orochimaru's guards, sent out to bring Sasuke to him. Naruto suggested we bring her back for information, Kakashi explained awkwardly. And as I went to the trouble of carefully digging her out from under a pile of trees, I'd appreciate you not crushing her skull, Granny, Naruto commented pointedly. Listen to the fox, skank, Tayuya said with a smirk. That said, feel free to get a Hyuga to make her mute if she doesn't stop with that, Naruto said blankly. Asshole, I thought you liked me? Tayuya asked with a pout. I do, but I like Granny more, Naruto answered with a smirk. Tsunade sighed. Naruto, we are going to need a long talk about all of this, she informed, wiping a hand over her face. Okay, let me stop you right there, Tsunade, Naruto said flatly, getting the blonde's attention with the use of her name. I basically just died and got turned into a mass of chakra. I am confused, I am pissed, I am grouchy, I am miserable for so many reasons, but most of all, I am fucking tired as shit. So anything you need to hear from me can wait until tomorrow. As it is, I am going to go curl up behind the Hokage mountain and I am going to hopefully have my first nap as a megaton fox, he ranted, staring down at her evenly, daring her to say otherwise. Tsunade gulped subtly before nodding. Very well dismissed. Tsunade answered unsurely, not entirely certain what to say in this situation. Smooth, Kakashi jabbed flatly, getting a glare for his effort. Have a nice nap, my fluffy student. He called out with an eye smile and a wave. Naruto rolled his eyes before glancing down. Katsuya, right? He asked lazily. Why yes, Q Naruto-sama. Katsuya greeted shakily. I think this is the first time we've actually met, Naruto noted idly before shrugging. Well, as pointless as it was, thank you for helping protect the village, he commented before he started to walk around the village. Katsuya gulped. Tsunade-sama, if there is nothing else, I need to return home now, Katsuya requested, not wanting to piss all over the village's figurative front lawn. You can go, Tsunade answered in understanding, turning to Kakashi. What, in the name of my ancestors, made you think bringing him right up to the front gate was a good idea? She asked with a glare. Kakashi shrugged. We had a high-asset target, various comrades exhausted, and a crippled prisoner, and Naruto wanted to go home and sleep, so I wasn't about to argue with the, quote, megaton fox, unquote, he answered casually. And you thought that justified a village-wide panic? Tsunade demanded. To be honest, Lady Hokage? Kind of yes, Kakashi answered bluntly as he stared at her, completely serious. The village was always going to react badly to this no matter what, at least initially. Naruto has a tough time ahead of him right now, so I thought it best to let him know this can still be his home rather than making him stay at a figurative arm's length, miles away. Unless you want to explain to the daimyo why there is a giant golden fox wandering and sleeping around all of Fire Country and avoiding here? Kakashi explained unapologetically. You've thought this out, Tsunade commented in slight surprise. No, Tsunade, I didn't. I just saw my student needed some reassurance and some rest, he retorted with an eye smile. Tsunade groaned as she rubbed her forehead. I should really demote you or something for this. For now, just fill me in on what you know, she requested. That I can gladly do, though. If you want the full story, I'd suggest Sasuke. Unless you don't mind the whole village finding out, Kakashi answered with a shrug. While Tsunade tried to ease a growing headache, Naruto walked around the walls of Konoha, feeling the eyes of every shinobi on him as he moved on top of the mountain and eased himself onto it. He had to admit, it was kind of comfy. With a mighty sigh, he closed his eyes and tried to tune out everything. Tsunade, Kakashi, the shinobi, the civilians in hiding, the ANBU, everything. It wasn't easy, but the sounds eventually faded and blurred away. Now he just prayed that he didn't roll over in his sleep or pee in his sleep. It had been a tense afternoon for Konoha. How could it not be? Crimson or golden, the fact remained that a nine-tailed fox was lying directly next to the village. The enormous head visible from everywhere, and every unconscious movement was heard, if not felt, throughout the village. Even more tense was the team of Umbu in the trees near the Genin turned Bijou, instructed to keep an eye on him while he slept. Being so close to the colossal being, they all watched for a tail, a twitch of the hand-like paws, or, Kami forbid, a Bijou bomb. And it wasn't just tense, it was boring. How long do we have to watch him? A rat-masked Umbu asked as he crouched on a tree branch. Until we're relieved, obviously, Tenzo answered simply, not looking away from his charge. Target? Object of interest? Just be glad that he doesn't roll around in his sleep, a dragon-masked Umbu pointed out while leaning on a tree trunk. I'm being very mindful of that, Miss Ryu. The entire village went still as the voice of the great fox echoed over them, completely unaware of who he was talking to. Tenzo was very sure that half his teammates just shat their pants as they stared at the kitsune. A single eyelid opened and a blue slit eye locked right on their location. Stare all you want, Tenzo, but my fur won't turn red, Naruto stated with annoyance. Being brave or stupid, said Umbu made his way to the edge of the tree branch to be standing halfway out of the foliage. How did you know my name? Tenzo asked cautiously. I heard Granny call you it when she sent you here, or did you not notice the mountain-sized ears? Naruto asked sarcastically, said ears twitching meaningfully. Third downside of being a megaton fox. You hear everything ever. Fair enough, Tenzo allowed, filing that away and asking a more curious question. How are you talking without moving your mouth? Exactly. How the hell would I know? Naruto asked dryly as he let loose a mighty and near thunderous yawn, aiming it upwards to avoid breathing on the people and buildings below. Even still, many people in the village stared in horror and quaked in their boots at the sight of so many massive fangs. I just try talking and my voice comes out with what I want to say. Fair enough, answered Tenzo half-heartedly. Did you sleep well? Until you started yapping and whining next to me, Naruto answered, pretending not to notice rats shifting awkwardly in the trees. We were ordered to observe you, Tenzo explained, trying to placate the megaton fox. Did the old hag tell you to do it right next to me? Naruto asked with an annoyed look, getting a negative headshake. Then go home and pull up a chair on the roof. I doubt you can miss me, he pointed out, turning his head to face away from the Umbu before lying on his folded arms as a makeshift pillow. Tenzo stared for a moment as the conversation was abruptly ended before coming back in the tree, looking towards his comrades. Well, he doesn't like you, Rat, he said to Rat's dismay and the others' amusement. Meanwhile, Tsunade's eyebrow twitched. I should probably demote you for being so irresponsible about this, she noted in annoyance. Forgive me, Lady Hokage. But what is the responsible thing to do in this case? Kakashi asked innocently. Anything but bring a Kyuubi's Naruto up to the village gates, Tsunade answered with a scowl, and don't even try to use the Uchiha or the injured as an excuse for this mess. Very well then, Kakashi agreed as he looked up thoughtfully and cupped his chin. I could have told Naruto to stay right where he was, but given the pillar of chakra and him being a giant fox, I'm pretty sure he would have been spotted soon. And I think leaving the village's tailed beast on the border near several countries would be seen as an act of war. I suppose I could have had Naruto hang back. But given how new he is to his size, it's very possible he might have stepped on someone or, more likely, a village due to not realizing how far he traveled or having a map big enough to read. Not to mention Orochimaru might have come looking for Sasuke. I'd rather not have my fluffy student testing out his powers in a trial by fire. Thank you. Kakashi rambled on with sarcastic sincerity. Let's see, should I have called for backup to get the word to you faster? No, wait, they were all running away from what was the word? Oh, right, Megaton Fox, darn SUC. Enough. Tsunade snapped, slamming a fist on her desk and cracking it. The Jonin waited patiently for her to take a breath. Fine, I concede there weren't many good alternatives for a split-second decision. Good, because I was running out of ideas, Kakashi added in sheepishly before turning serious. How is everyone? Most have just minor injuries besides Niji and Choji. I'm optimistic they'll pull through, but I'll be joining the medical staff shortly just in case. The Sand siblings are all unscathed, so there's that. The mouthy redhead was sedated, more for the sake of everyone's ears than anything else. She's paralyzed from the waist down. I doubt I could get her walking again. Tsunade listed off with a mixture of concern and relief. The Uchiha's body is severely depleted and overtaxed, which is to his fortune. Otherwise the intelligence division would be putting him through the gauntlet rather than just as. Rumble! Tsunade blinked as the ground shook ever so slightly. Kakashi looked over his shoulder meaningfully. I think he heard you. Of course I can hear you. I didn't die and drag his ass back for you to off him while interrogating him, Granny. Naruto's voice echoed over the room, and the village for that matter. Naruto! Stop listening in on a meeting with the Hokage. Tsunade yelled with a vein on her forehead, holding a fist to the sky as if he could see it. What else am I supposed to do? 'Cause I'm getting tired of pretending half the village isn't pissing its boots, or that your Umbu don't exist, or that I can't see that one couple doing it in the junkyard of all places. You know who you are. Naruto called out accusingly. Huh, you know, you never think about this kind of stuff when you think about the bijou. Maybe this is why they don't like living around us? Kakashi commented thoughtfully. Well, this situation obviously isn't going to stand for long, Tsunade muttered under her breath as she rubbed her forehead. You thought one of the most hyperactive ninjas could just sit on the village mountain all day with nothing to do without issue? Kakashi asked skeptically. Well, he can't exactly go for a walk, Tsunade retorted with a glare. But we also can't keep the civilians locked up in the bunkers forever. Hopefully we can minimize the panic by explaining this if someone behaves himself. How have I not behaved? I even put myself on bed rest. Air mountain rest? Tsunade had the distinct feeling that Naruto was scratching his head right now. Just try not to scare anyone, Naruto, Kakashi requested. I haven't tried yet, Naruto reminded with a grumble. So, what is going to happen to Sasuke? Kakashi questioned with a serious gaze at the Hokage. Tsunade sighed at that, both tired and frustrated. We'll decide on that after Jiraiya gets back and takes another look at that blasted seal. For right now, the Uchiha doesn't leave the cells. That fine with you, your fluffiness? Kakashi inquired, looking upwards as Tsunade's eyebrow twitched. The answer was a snort and silence. I'll take that as a yes, good meeting, Kakashi said with a nice smile. Tsunade groaned, about ready to throw the man out of the window. Knowing Naruto, he might catch the scarecrow. Just get out there and explain this to the other rookies. The sooner we get the ninjas all on the same page, the sooner we can deal with the civilians. Please hurry, Ino is debating over if I'm the old Kyuubi's child or mate. Meanwhile, those no-good brats, desecrating Big Brother's memory. Let me at them, let me at them. Gaara couldn't decide what was more disturbing, Shikaku's wailing or his little brother mode that had been activated. Oh crap, he heard that too. Ino paled as she clung to Shikamaru in fear as Naruto's blue fox eyes fell on them for a moment before closing again. Team 10, Sans Choji, and the Sand siblings had gathered at one of the training grounds to discuss the fox on the mountain, as it were. I warned you, he is very grumpy right now, Shikamaru said carefully, eyeing the colossal creature resting just over Konoha's former Hokage heads. I didn't think he could hear me from here. Ino hissed at him. I leave you two alone for one fight and you get to ride a fucking nine tails? Kankuro joked, his smirk just a little strained as he complained at his siblings. I thought I was going to die. Temari stressed every word flatly as she glared at him. Naruto also taught me about being a younger sibling, Gaara informed with his usual level voice. Shikamaru facepalmed as Temari pleadingly mouthed Gaara not to answer. The puppet user just blinked curiously. Oh? What did the fuzzball teach you? Behind the Suna ninja, a certain megaton fox could be seen grimacing with a tick mark on his head. Gaara, however, ignored this in favor of answering. He taught me the kissing in a tree song when we found Temari with the Nara, he elaborated, said Nara and Wind User just hung their heads in resignation. Kankuro stood in place, utterly frozen. Kankuro? Gaara questioned, tilting his head as he summoned some of his sand and waved it in front of his brother's face. Naruto. I believe I have broken my brother. How do I fix him? The Ichibi container inquired loudly, still in the same monotone. With that, Kankuro burst out laughing while holding his gut. Naruto's massive form could be seen shaking ever so slightly. But he refused to laugh, which might possibly destroy every window in Konoha or even open his eyes. The war-paint-wearing ninja grinned widely as he turned towards the bijou. Thank you, Naruto-sama, Kankuro called, clapping his hands together and bending at the waist to give the golden fox an over-the-top bow. Everyone in the village watched in their own mixtures of fascination and fear as the trembling and snickering Kyuubi brought one massive fist high into the air and gave a thumbs up. He held it. Kankuro still laughing as Naruto brought a hand down over his face to hold in his amusement. The NBU team jumped away as the air from the sudden movement tore through their tree. I say we listen to the big guy on this and watch from home, Rat suggested nervously. There was something more nerve-wracking watching over a bijou rather than fighting it. Well, at least he's in a good mood, Ino said awkwardly as Kankuro continued laughing, before smirking at Shikamaru. So, what's this about the kissing song? She asked deviously. Shikamaru paled, realizing the amount of blackmail Ino might just get on him. It's nothing, just Naruto still being Naruto, Shikamaru said with a sigh. Your head was between her legs, Gaara pointed out as Shikamaru stiffened and Ino looked like a Cheshire cat. Did you have to tell them all that? Temari hissed to her youngest brother. If I hadn't, Naruto would have and everyone would have heard him, Gaara pointed out bluntly. Temari's brow twitched, wondering why she couldn't win today. Meanwhile, Shino found himself feeling very lost and alone as he met with two members of Team Guy. His more canine teammate was in the hospital, and the shy one was elsewhere, he could guess where. He and Ino had agreed to split up to get information from the less injured members of the Sasuke retrieval team. The Yamanaka had covered most of them, by virtue of the Sand siblings being with her remaining teammate. That left him to seek out Rock Lee for any information. What do you mean? You have no idea what is going on? Tenten asked slowly, her wide eyes glancing toward the entity atop their village monument. Naruto is in a most unyouthful mental state and as such was in no mood to explain his situation to us. Lee explained as if it was the simplest thing in the world. And none of you inquired how this happened? Shino questioned. While Naruto's state of annoyance was obvious and actually, he wasn't sure what the valid response to becoming a bijou was, but he accepted Naruto's. That aside, it seemed odd that so many of the ninja traveling with him didn't question it. I believe the others were too busy being in awe or not desiring to upset him and risk taking a much more unyouthful trip home by Naruto's tales, Lee explained thoughtfully. On second thought, yes, shutting up was probably the appropriate response at the time described, and you weren't? Tenten inquired with a raised eyebrow. I was too busy preventing my stomach from making a most unyouthful mess on Naruto's back, Lee answered uneasily, looking like he might puke from the mere memory of it, and no one believed that approaching the village in such a form would perhaps be a negative course of action. Shino asked, eyebrow raised behind his glasses. Lee turned to Shino fully before glancing at Naruto's massive form and looking back at the bug user with a nervous expression. It is most unwise to tell a great beast it has not earned the right to go and rest in its own home after a long but successful hunt. Is that the reason Kakashi Hatake gave? Shino asked with a head tilt. No, I believe he merely decided not to argue with his fluffy student. Meanwhile, Naruto never knew it, but he routinely had one female stalking him fairly often in the past. Right now, he knew he had two, at least two that weren't here on a mission. He didn't say anything. His ears alone could tell who they were. They stood there, watching him from the trees. He could smell it. They were afraid. He didn't blame them. A human couldn't help being afraid of a bijou on some level. He appreciated them coming even this close. But he still didn't open his eyes. Not even when one finally stepped forward. He did open them, however, just as an ANBU was about to drop from the tree and stop her approach. The elite ninja stopped dead in his tracks as the full attention and undeniable ire of the new bijou was dropped upon him. Wisely, he returned to his post and didn't disrupt the meeting. The golden fox turned softer eyes downwards. He had seen her amongst most of his friends when he had first arrived, but now they were so close, he truly saw her instead of just noticing her. It was amazing. Truly amazing, how small and fragile she looked from here, as if his mere presence might shatter her. For all he knew, it could. Another thing to worry about. Naruto, she whispered in a voice of sorrow and regret. Did you mean that? Did you die bringing him back? He sighed heavily and closed his eyes again. He could feel her coming closer now. He could just barely tell she placed a hand upon his left foreleg. Arm? Whatever the ones with hands were called now, she touched it. I'm sorry, I'm probably the last person you want to see right now, she said with a bitter smile that he knew was there but didn't want to see, and this is definitely the last thing you want to talk about. I'm sorry, I just don't understand. She cried, weeping into his fur. I don't understand anything anymore. Why Sasuke would do this, how you're like this, I'm not even sure who I really am anymore. I never should have forced that promise on you. Sakura, her head snapped up to see the great slit now looking directly at her. She felt no fear, not for a single second did she doubt her safety in that instant as she stared up with wide emerald eyes. He smiled, for the first time as a fox, he truly smiled. You have nothing to apologize for, he assured her, his voice as gentle as rolling thunder could be. Are you the old one, reincarnated? Sakura's question slipped out as she stared in awe. She could feel it, the massive chakra. Chakra enough to consume her 1,000 times over without notice, and not even one hint of it felt dangerous to her. Naruto's smile did not wane at the question as it would have in the past. It was valid, more valid than it ever had been, so instead, he decided to ask a question more important than correcting her. Does it matter now? Sakura didn't answer for a moment. The idea of reincarnation was neither lost nor unpopular amongst these lands. The concept was not that far-fetched, still. No, I guess it doesn't, Sakura decided softly. Kakashi will explain soon. You should head back, he advised, already closing his eyes again. I'll visit, I promise, Sakura vowed, hand still on his limb before she made her retreat. With her back turned, Naruto opened his eye again and glanced to the side. Hinata jerked under his gaze. Knowing he detected her, she shook. She was afraid of him. Too afraid, he simply gave her a half-lidded look and closed his eyes. He didn't see the shame on her face as she quietly left his presence. Tenzo sighed to himself. He didn't think things could get more complicated than a Genin-turned bijou in teenage drama. Hopefully, he wouldn't be proven wrong. He blinked as he felt a rush of wind, looking back to see a sight that made him sigh. Naruto had his arm raised again, flipping someone off with his eyes closed. The ANBU was tempted, so tempted to inquire just who he felt needed that, but kept it to himself. Most likely, the culprits knew who they were. Naruto, for his part, turned his attention away from some Inuzuka or another that had tried to dare some friends into pissing on their new resident bijou. With his hand back down, his eyes traveled back to where he could still hear Hinata leaving and then moved down to the Hyuga clan compound. Something else to occupy his time with, perhaps. Fourth downside of being a megaton fox, trying not to disturb tiny humans and their buildings made things boring fast. For every famous shinobi, there are 3 more unknown shinobi of similar power levels. While not true all the time, it was a good rule of thumb. Various shinobi of great skill didn't collect great fame and or notoriety around the world for various reasons. Some, like the god of hidden rain or the mysterious Tobi, intentionally kept themselves a secret from most of the world. Others simply have bad luck or lack any chances to show their merits in a way that would catch attentions. A few were just lazy or content being just another shinobi wherever they were. Then there were the ones that were too good to be noticed by the majority. Hidden Grass had several of these, with one such being the Kusugensui, the general and leader of the Hidden Grass village, Shiroyasha the White Knight. Unlike their southern neighbor in Rain, the Hidden Grass had openly flourished under Shiroyasha. This was thanks in no small part to her skills and influence in diplomacy, but also her unique love for her country. Some ninjas would do anything to put their nation or village on top of the world. Shiroyasha had only one goal, to protect her country, not to make it a great power, and being the small fish in between 4 of the 5 big ones meant knowing how to read the winds and tides. That said, for all her wisdom, well, I'm stumped. Karen's face faltered at her leader's casual admission. The woman was almost unearthly beautiful, with light blue, almost white hair and golden eyes. The black kimono with strips that matched her hair hugged her form generously, the red sash on her waist displaying her grass headband. But for all her shrewdness and beauty, and the sheer reputation of grass being hard to read, Shiroyasha could be surprisingly blunt. Gensui-sama, please take this seriously, you requested calmly, utterly used to this. I am, Shiroyasha said with a smile as she pointed to the air with a folded fan. The Kyuubi is free. This means we're all potentially fucked. That is simple to understand, she stated. far too calm and cheerful about their potential destruction for Karen's taste. Its chakra changed, makes absolutely no sense, so leave that alone for now. It headed back to Konoha? This is good. For us, at least. Granted, I don't hate Konoha, but they might survive that, whereas we would have a better chance against Deidara of IWA with a clay factory, she answered with a grin. Shiro-sama, Karen whimpered, she normally liked this woman, she really did, but now it's just stopped in Konoha? Its chakra is still calm? Shiroyasha asked rhetorically, faking disbelief before grinning. This part does not compute in any direction. You sighed in resignation. Then what should we do, Gansue-sama? Send an inquiry to Konoha? That is plan B. For now, we go with plan A, she declared, pointing at Karen, who blinked and leaned back. You. Please check again. Do I have to? Karen asked hesitantly. I shall let you borrow from my porn stash, Shiroyasha offered bluntly, and cover any potential medical bills. Karen requested with a hungry grin. Deal. Shiroyasha declared as they shook hands while you sighed. Okay, but I need total silence for this, Karen stated as she closed her eyes and swallowed to steel her nerves. Meanwhile, what do you mean the Kyuubi was sealed into Naruto? Ino yelled with a jaw drop, looking ready to rip her hair out. When did that happen? Kakashi sighed as he looked over the non-fluffy genin, the 5 of the rookie 9 and the 2 not hospitalized members of Team Guy, gathered around him in a semicircle with their teachers behind them. He decided to tell them all, allowing his fellow Jonin to help spread the information while getting the younger shinobi to head to the bunkers to start getting the civilians out, and hopefully, keep panic to a minimum. Obviously it happened when the Kyuubi attacked when Naruto was born, Ino, Sakura stated evenly. What are the odds of that? Shino murmured, mostly to himself. Kakashi made a point to not glance at him. The topic of previous Kyuubi containers was something they would have to bring up much later when Naruto was acclimated to his situation. Did you know about this? Ino hissed at Sakura. Normally the Pinkite would yell back at her friend, but now she just gave her a blank glare. No, Ino, I did not know my teammate had a giant mass of living chakra in his gut, Sakura answered stoically. Are you being serious or sarcastic? Ino asked with a narrow, searching look. Sakura didn't know. Kakashi spoke up with a firm voice. The third made a law to keep anyone from mentioning it, in a failed effort to give him a normal childhood. Naruto didn't learn about it until he became a ninja himself. Well, this explains a few things, Shikamaru muttered, scratching his chin. You mean like that red chakra he used against Neji? Tenten commented with a raised eyebrow. Well, that, and Naruto saying he had a real demon inside him, Shikamaru answered. He blinked as he found the 10.5 pairs of eyes on him. In fairness to Naruto, he was talking to Gaara at the time. Kakashi and Asuma both facepalmed at that. This still doesn't explain what happened to turn him into a Kyuubi. The Kyuubi? Kurenai rambled lightly as she glanced upward in thought. Let's just stick with new Kyuubi or just Bijou, Kakashi recommended. As for what happened, Sasuke, being powered by the curse seal guys, Kurenai, please explain to them what a curse seal is later if you can use the Chidori on Naruto. He paused as Hinata gasped with a horrified look on her face. While Sakura just grit her teeth, the others, minus a grim-faced Shikamaru, just looked pale, and drove it into his gut, more exactly the seal. Sasuke almost definitely didn't know that, and I doubt he would have done it intentionally. If he did, I think his brain should have been in question well before his loyalties, Asuma quipped, seeing nothing good coming from hitting a seal like that. The fact that seal required summoning the Shinigami itself made that feeling even stronger. Kakashi gave him an annoyed look before pushing on. By some miracle or another, instead of dying or the seal imploding, Naruto seems to have absorbed the old Kyuubi and become one himself. Did Naruto tell you all of that when you found him? Shikamaru asked with a raised eyebrow. No, I just guessed and he confirmed it, Kakashi answered with an eye smile. Who guesses that? Shikamaru, Sakura, Ino, Tenten, and Asuma all yelled in annoyance. I shall assume it was a logical deduction on your part, Kakashi-sensei, Shino stated simply. Kakashi wasn't sure which group was mocking him more. That is not how I recall seals normally working, my eternal rival, Guy commented awkwardly. Kakashi fixed him with a really? Stare. No part of this situation was normal, Guy. Even before we got to Baijification, he stated bluntly. If it had been normal, it would have been us instead of our genin on this mission, if not many ANBU, Add in Jinchuriki fighting against something cooked up by Orochimaru, and you have a new section in the guidebook, manual book, rule book, history books, medical books, and just about every other kind of book. You raise a corrective vicious point, my rival, Guy conceded, rubbing his head with a sigh. Speaking of which, I have to remember to check in on how interrogation is doing with that redhead, Kakashi mused to himself out loud. Senseis? Lee spoke up cautiously, raising a hand and getting their attention. I am not an expert on Bijou and other giant creatures, but should Naruto's chakra be doing that? He asked curiously, pointing towards the Hokage monument. Everyone's gaze immediately shot towards the local mountain of golden fur. Kakashi had to admit, he had been getting a bit worried by the lack of commentary from Naruto. His friends were all learning his big secret. He at least expected him to chime in and mention Mizuki, another traitor, was the one that told him about what was sealed inside him. Still, he had assumed the enormous blonde had just finally gotten to sleep, but looking at him now, he was starting to see what Lee meant. It was almost undetectable, but Naruto's strands of fur were swishing weightlessly as chakra slowly but steadily seeped out of the giant fox. But why couldn't they sense it? The very air should be getting heavy by now. Oh my! Hinata gasped, this time in disbelief. Kakashi glanced at her and saw that both she and Kurenai were looking up, and Naruto's chakra. It's moving through the sky, lots of it, and leaving the village, by the feel of it, Kurenai finished with a scowl. Kakashi nodded, both to them and himself. Naruto's chakra wasn't felt because it was physically above them still. Just what are you doing, Naruto? Meanwhile, Karen gasped as she fell to the ground. I am sorry, Gensui-sama. I couldn't discover anything new. She apologized as she took deep breaths to calm herself down, only to stiffen, both from the lack of response and because the surface below her was dirt, not wooden floors. Gensui-sama? She asked in dread as she looked up. She was in a forest, a dense and dark one, and on a dirt road. The sky was dark and she could see only one light. Herself. Her form gave off the slightest of glows. To her fascination and confusion, every movement left a brief yet misty afterimage. Waving her hands back and forth, she only had one question. Where am I? The only answer she received was a dull and distant dull and not so distant thump that gentle violently shook the ground almost out from under her. Karen felt absolute terror at the following silence, slowly turning to face what would likely be her doom. She was not prepared. It wasn't just a nine-tailed fox, it was huge, spying her from over treetops while still half a mile away. Every inch was made of pure, blazing chakra that seemed to singe the very shadows as light simply poured off it. The eyes, if they could even be called that, were two ovals of bright blue, glaring right into her soul. It was mesmerizing, it was mind-numbing. The grass ninja did the only thing she could do. Run. She ran, and she ran as fast as her legs could carry her. So great was her fear that the notion that she could use chakra to enhance her speed or run in trees didn't even register. Meanwhile, it was mildly unnerving for the ninja of Konoha to see a giant fox grinning in its sleep. Well, someone must be having a good dream, Tenzo mused to himself in his tree. Meanwhile, the Kyuubi's essence, spirit, chakra, whatever it was, outpaced her without any effort. It literally glided over the dark landscape Karen found herself in, her pitiful pace outmatched by its long strides. She tried to turn away when it now stood ahead of her, only for a human-like hand to slam down on one side of her. She looked the other way and the other came down, right on time. She quickly scurried backwards, like a mere cornered rabbit, until her back hit a tree. It was leaning down, by Kami, it was leaning down. She tried to duck behind the tree. That was her final mistake. She screamed as its arms lost all solidity, and the golden mass of energy wrapped around her, barreling into her like a river, like an excessive number of chains. It held her down and only left her head free to move. They held her tight, too tight, as though they might crush her organs into mush. She could only stare and weep as its head came down until the blue mass of energy that was its eye was directly in front of her. It inched closer as she bowed her head and did the only thing she was allowed to do now. Please, mercy. The silence that reigned was deafening as her final plea was made. What came next was not a sound, it was a feeling, a physical sensation as something in this strange world shifted. Trembling, she raised her head and her eyes shrank. She wasn't staring into blue energy as a makeshift eye now. She was staring into a literal, giant, blue fox eye, surrounded by black and gold fur. He whispered 3 rumbling words that would haunt her dreams and her nightmares both, a sentence she'd never be able to hear again without thinking of this moment. I see you. The scariest part? Those weren't in her head, she really heard that, which meant he really saw her. Meanwhile, for real this time, Naruto silenced himself halfway through a yawn, hoping not to rattle any eardrums beyond repair. That was either a very weird dream, or more likely, he just solved one minor annoyance. Granted, he probably went overboard, but again, A, he didn't know if it was real, B, he didn't like her spying on him repeatedly like that, and C, he had winged that entire thing. Blinking away his sleep, he knew at a glance that the civilians hadn't been let out yet. Joy, he couldn't have slept through that part? Still, the lack of Tenzo or anybody inquiring about anything probably meant that no one suspected he had done anything if he had done anything at all. Oh well, it was therapeutic in either case. Still, he'd keep that to himself for now. Last thing he needed was everybody thinking he could haunt their dreams or something. Would it still be haunting if he just came to hang out in their dreams? Thump. He blinked as he felt something. He glanced around, scowling as he didn't see any tree or buildings falling over. Thump. There it was again. Was a ninja battle going nearby or something? Thump. It was only at the very last second that Naruto blinked and realized what was happening. Something had been approaching him from behind. Whatever dream thing he had been in made it so he needed some time to get all his senses going again properly. And because of the peacock-like mass of tails coming off his rear, he hadn't been able to see what was coming at him. Fifth downside of being a megaton fox, you have a megaton blind spot you need to be aware of. Naruto, move! Kakashi yelled in alarm just before it happened. Naruto didn't though. He knew if he did, to dodge or block, there was a good chance he or his enemy would fall onto the village and crush a good portion of it. Rhea! That didn't mean he could stop the initial roar of pain that ripped through him as a sword stabbed through his back and a large someone landed on him. Now many would see this as karma for what Naruto had done to Karen moments earlier. Well, Naruto had a habit of doing things to karma and he was in a far less gentle mood than normal. And the gallant hero arrived. Jiraiya announced as Gamabunta made the strike, only for someone to interrupt. You fucking idiots! Naruto yelled as he harshly elbowed the Toad Boss, sending the pair flying backwards, the sword still in his back. Said yell and the aforementioned roar, thankfully, only dated a dozen or 2 windows. Wait! Naru boy? Is that you? Gamabunta asked in disbelief, his toad eyes wide in incomprehension. Naruto? How the dash? What the hell did you do? Jiraiya yelled, too shocked to fully consider his words and the situation. What did I do? Naruto yelled back in outrage, his yell much louder and much angrier, and much more pain-filled. Gritting his massive teeth, he pulled himself up, the blade still through him. Everyone stared in horrified fascination as the crimson life essence, pouring out like small rivers, rapidly evaporated into a golden mist. Kid, stop moving! Let me take that. OU Gamabunta tried to caution, only to be silenced by a tail whipping the ground between them. Naruto groaned and growled as 2 of his tails wrapped around the bladed weapon, slowly pulling it out. Can I not go one fucking day without being stabbed by my friends? With a deeper growl, he reached behind himself, wincing as he gripped the bloodied instrument of battle. At least Sasuke stabbed me through the front, assholes. You two didn't even have that much decency. With a glare on his face, he stalked toward the Toad Boss and Toad Sage, his wound rapidly healing with a golden glow. Hey, Naruto, let's talk about this, okay? Jiraiya pleaded nervously as the 9-tailed fox of Golden Doom and Blue-Eyed Wrath came closer. Why yeah, it's not like Jiraiya told me it was you. I just took him at his word that the Kyuubi was free. Gamabunta tried as well, his summoner gapping in disbelief at being thrown under the bus. Shit, Tenzo cursed, having jumped away to another tree. Looks like I'll have to try and step in after all, he said as he started to go through hand signs, until a hand rested on his shoulders. Hold up, Tenzo, Kakashi interrupted. Kakashi-senpai? Tenzo asked in surprise. Why are you? Take a moment to sense him, Kakashi suggested, completely calm as his giant student approached his favorite author. Tenzo blinked behind his mask, turning to the soon-to-be death match. He didn't see any. He realized, standing up as he understood, he's not leaking any killer intent. Gamabunta gave a cry, more of shock than pain as Naruto jabbed the butt of the massive sword into his chin. If you ever do that again, That sword is going up your ass, you overgrown bag of warts. Naruto ranted, pointing a clawed finger at the amphibious summon. Alright, my mistake, won't happen again. Gamabunta promised nervously as he clutched his blade, said tools shaking in his grip. And you! Naruto pointed his finger slightly upward, causing Jiraiya to stop in his attempt to sneak off Gamabunta's back. With a brave, fearful grin usually reserved for angry women, he turned to the angry Bijou. Yes? He liked to pretend it didn't come out as a squeak. Naruto's eye twitched before he just let loose a massive sigh. Just go to Tsunade, now, no peeking, no stops, no sneaking out of the village, no flirting with the secretary, just go, Naruto ordered. Yes, right, consider me gone, Lord Gaki. Jiraiya said with a salute before fleeing towards the village at full speed. That just left two larger-than-life animals staring each other down with the most awkward silence. So Gamabunta started, glancing around, unsure what to say. I'll just be going t-dash. Just go home, Naruto stated, utterly done with the situation. Wasting no time, the Toad Boss dispersed with a pop of smoke. Naruto, as alone as he could get at present, just turned around. With a heavier, tired movement, he returned to his resting spot. Thankfully, his blood had long since disappeared, for now, he was going to pretend that he hadn't noticed several people in Umbu uniforms trying to take samples of it while his back was turned, his tails accidentally denying their attempts. Meanwhile, Tsunade, what in the name of you glorious bow? Jiraiya started as he jumped through the window, only to come under assault, first by a kick to the balls, then to an uppercut to the jaw. As he crumbled to the floor, the shocking part was that neither of those attacks came from Tsunade. The uppercut came from one Sakura Haruno, the kick to the jewels came from, amazingly, Kakashi. Low blow, I know, but so is backstabbing my fluffy student, Kakashi explained with a shrug. I wanted the ball kick, but Kakashi-sensei said I'm not fast enough, Sakura admitted, also with a shrug. Naruto, we've avenged you. She called out the window. Jiraiya's tears flowed as the snickering of a great fox rang overhead. Tsunade just sat there while face-palming, not sure to sigh or laugh at her teammate. And that's what happened, Kakashi stated bluntly. Are you high? Seals don't work like that. Jiraiya yelled in disbelief. I distinctly remember Minato-sensei telling me you said something similar about the Rasengan, Kakashi commented offhandedly. Don't compare my deceased student's brilliance with this. Jiraiya retorted, looking ready to pull his hair out. Why is this impossible? Sakura raised her hand awkwardly. Didn't the seal already convert some of the Kyuubi's chakra into normal chakra for Naruto? Why is she even here? The Toad Sage asked Tsunade, who was sitting behind her desk again. Teammate privilege, Sakura stated bluntly, daring him to try and deny her right to be here. And we already told the rest of the younger shinobi, so, you know, Kakashi added in with a shrug. Keeping it a secret is hardly practical now, obviously, Tsunade tiredly pointed out in agreement. Granted, Jiraiya grumbled before turning to the lone genin in the room. Okay, little Pinky, let me explain this simply. I'm not an idiot, Sakura retorted in annoyance. Sealing, advanced sealing at least, is the one thing I will freely admit is harder to learn than any medical jutsu, Tsunade intervened pointedly. That's because when medics screw up, that's just another example of what not to do. When you mess up in sealing, well, that's how explosion tags were first invented, Jiraiya stated grimly. And I am telling you, there is no way the seal went into overdrive just because a cursed seal Chidori was put through it. Then please explain the megaton fox? Sakura asked with a scowl, arms crossed. Hell if I know, the Bijou are usually immortal. But since this seal was designed to take the Bijou to the grave, Jiraiya trailed off for a moment in thought. Maybe it gave its chakra to Naruto rather than dying completely? A willing and complete transfer, is that even possible? Tsunade questioned skeptically. Tsunade, my princess, this is the Bijou we're talking about. Everything we learn of them is strictly trial and error, Jiraiya reminded sagely as he headed over to the window. Hey, fur brat, you remember anything just before you changed? It was both comedic and terrifying for people over the village to see a giant fox gain a tick mark. I was a bit busy dying after getting stabbed by the other spiky-haired asshole that has issues with women, Naruto retorted dryly. Well, someone is grumpy, Jiraiya murmured as he turned around and caught the leg heading for his privates. Can we please stop doing that? Jiraiya requested as Sakura glared at him. You deserved it, Sakura stated with a scowl, yanking her leg out of his grip. Lady Hokage, Kakashi-sensei, may I be excused? Yes, go make sure the brat is doing alright, Tsunade dismissed with a sigh. Now, Jiraiya, I'm going to need your expertise. If it's about sealing Naruto into a smaller form, I'm not even sure where to begin, Jiraiya stated in warning. Noted, but no, I need you to lie your ass off to explain how this happened, Tsunade said bluntly. You want me to make this seem intentional? Jiraiya questioned. Possible, but I need your help to avoid two things. First is to keep the civilians from panicking too much, Tsunade said, letting that sink in as her old teammate groaned. More importantly, when this leaks to the other villages, I'd rather not have them start butchering their Jinchuriki trying to replicate this, she explained. Jiraiya was wide-eyed and pale. He had been so caught up in how this whole thing could have happened, he missed the implications. If Naruto could do it, theoretically any Jinchuriki could become a Bijuu. It was incredibly unlikely, but that might not stop some who would butcher children over and over again trying to replicate this. I think I have a few ideas. Hey, Naruto. We may need to make this seem like the forced plan, K? Jiraiya called upwards, getting a grunt in response. You'd adapting to this pretty well, Tsunade commented curiously. Tsunade, I've lived with the toads, and unlike the slugs, they can't divide into smaller cells. This is quickly becoming nothing more than nostalgia for my sage training days, Jiraiya declared proudly. Meanwhile, to their credit, the ANBU who remained on the mountain didn't even try to stop Sakura from approaching their charge this time. Sakura, you know you can talk to me from literally anywhere in the village, right? Naruto pointed out in amusement. Yeah, but this just seems more polite, you know? Sakura answered with a smile as she walked up to the massive pile of fur and muscle, supposedly all made of chakra. So, did you have a nice nap before? Before I got stabbed in the back by a pervert and a toad? Yes, I did, Naruto answered, sounding more amused than angry now. Once I managed to tune out the village for a while. And no, Snake Lady, you cannot make a pair of boots out of my fur. Naruto hollered over the village to someone who, apparently, answered back. I don't care if it was a joke. You already got to cut me when I was a kid. I can't tell if you're enjoying or hating this, Sakura commented. I take my enjoyment where I can, Naruto answered with a massive shrug. So, speaking of fur, can I? Sakura asked nervously. Come aboard, Naruto offered casually. Rolling her arms, Sakura jumped up and began to use chakra to walk up the long tufts of fur. At one point, she nearly slipped, but caught herself. She paused with one hand in the fur of his snout. By Kami, that is soft, she said before continuing her climb. Not touching that one, Naruto decided, resisting the urge to snort with her on his nose. Sakura ignored him for a moment as she reached the top of his snout, looking out over the village. Well, that's one upside. You have an amazing view no matter where you go, Sakura noted with a small smile. Naruto stared at his longtime crush. It almost looked like she was standing on a field of gold while overlooking the village. Yeah, I sure do. So, does anything hurt? Sakura asked cautiously as she turned to face him, eyeing his massive form up and down. I have absolutely no idea what becoming a Bijuu could have felt like, so I thought someone should ask. Naruto breathed deeply, Sakura feeling the airflow rushing through the nostrils beneath her feet. I'm fine, Sakura-chan, Naruto assured with a weak smile. Sakura stared at him in concern with an unconvinced look. She promptly sat down with crossed legs. Naruto, I know I haven't been the best anything since we became a team, but I am trying here. If you need to talk, I'm right here, she offered seriously. There was a long pause, one she thought would be tense or thoughtful, but grew uncomfortable as he stared at her rather intently. Naruto? You okay? She asked, not sure what had happened. Your butt is on my nose. Sakura blinked, looking down in surprise as she realized that was, technically true. On your snout, she conceded sheepishly, about to get up, but stopping as Naruto reached up to cover his mouth as he started trembling. Naradash? Haha! You're practically sitting on my face. Naruto's voice laughed at the absolutely hilarious instance for him. Sakura stared for a second longer before she started to snicker and snort. I bet you would have given an arm for this a few days ago. Sakura exclaimed between her laughs. HH. Well, I gave a bit more, so what do I get now? Haha. Naruto asked in laughter, his tails waving happily behind him. Oh, I don't know. Sakura said teasingly as she scooted back some, essentially grinding against his nose. Naruto grunted suddenly as a loud, brief rumbling sound was heard. Awkward silence rang over the village as Sakura blinked owlishly. What was that? She asked hesitantly. Naruto didn't answer for a moment, glancing away. Let's just say my 10th tail is out and I shouldn't stand up any time soon. Oh my Kami! Sakura exclaimed, scandalized. I'm so sorry, Naruto. I had no idea you could, well, still do that. It's fine, neither did I until just now, Naruto assured, happy this fur hid his blush as he refused to make eye contact. How would, well, obviously, I know how, but where could you even go to? Sakura wondered in morbid curiosity. Just no jokes about taking care of it for me or I will never calm down, Naruto forewarned in complete seriousness. And you know, everyone should avoid mysterious new lakes in the future. TMI. TMI. Oh, I am not getting that image out of my head today. Sakura cried with a groan. Well, I am never living this down. Going to be an odd conversation when I get home, Sakura said, hanging her head in dismay. Just tell them who you hit today. I'm sure that'll get more attention, Naruto advised with some amusement before scowling as his ears twitched. Never mind. That killed my mood, he said with a mighty sigh. Huh? What's wrong? Sakura asked in confusion. Naruto just said nothing, nodding to the side slightly as a silent request for her to get off. Sakura did so, heading to the edge of the Hokage monument, and quickly realizing what Naruto was unhappy about. It had to happen sooner or later, but Naruto just wanted to get it over with. The villagers slowly filtered out of the bunkers and back into the village. They were all eventually gasping and staring up at him with fear, disbelief, and hatred. He did his best to ignore them, to just lay there and pretend to be asleep. It's the Kyuubi, but it's gold, like the kid. I knew it. I knew he was that thing all along. Why aren't the ninja doing anything? Did someone tame it? Mama, is the fox going to eat us? But with ears like his, he just couldn't tune all of them out. He eventually grunted, opening his eyes to gaze up at the crowd of scared and confused villagers. Before he could even say anything, they jumped and some even screamed as his sight fell upon them. He froze as all their feelings turned to terror before him. Because of his sheer existence, he ultimately settled on a great sigh. Yeah, you were all right, hooray for you, Naruto grumbled as he turned to lay on his side, his head facing away from the village. It's just toying with us now. Maybe it's still too weak. Maybe there's a seal or something that keeps it from hurting us? Naruto clenched his fists, unseen by any, and gritted his teeth. He needed to leave. He needed to get away before he broke something by punching the ground in anger or something. He needed. Was that feet on his nose? Hey Naruto. Naruto's eyes shot wide open at that voice, his sight focused intently on the man standing on his muzzle, scarred face smiling at him. Irika-sensei? He whispered, silencing the village altogether as they heard the name. I believe I told you many times that your ramen-only diet would leave you out of shape, Irika mock scolded, arms folded over his chest. Naruto just blinked slowly, as his ears drooped ever so slightly. Something that didn't go unnoticed by his academy instructor. I'd offer to buy you lunch, but I think you'd bankrupt the whole village if we even tried, Irika joked, smiling genuinely at the bijou. Shame, you deserve it after one of your biggest mission successes, especially since you literally carried most of the team home. Naruto didn't speak, but Irika could feel the maw trembling underneath him as the enormous blue eyes glowed a bit brighter, not with power or chakra, but the shine of the sun on unshed tears. Sakura smiled at the scene from the tree lines, glaring out over the village. You better get it through their head, you old pervert. Attention people of Konoha. I, Jiraiya the Sannin, have an announcement. Do not fear the golden fox, that is not the Kyuubi of old. Meanwhile, Sasuke Uchiha gritted his teeth from inside his cell on the surface. His restraints seemed moderate at best, but a ninja knew better. A pair of gauntlets fashioned like metal gloves were locked together with the palms facing away from each other. This kept him from leaving hand signs and, unless he was wrong, something in the wrist of the gauntlets disrupted his chakra control even if he broke them. He was also blindfolded with something he was sure was designed for dealing with the eyes of Hyugas and Uchihas. All of this had been done while he was heavily sedated for medical care for the safety of the staff rather than his own, and frankly, he had been hallucinating a bit for a while. Thankfully, the drugs were already mostly out of his system, leaving him with a deep frustration of failure. As a shinobi and a proud Uchiha, he was not surprised by the amount of caution they put into containing him. He knew what failure would mean the moment he stepped foot outside Konoha. This place was no longer going to just hold him back but chain him down. He wasn't sure what his fate would be, due to the fact he was in fact the last Uchiha they had. But he didn't put much stock in getting off with a wrist slap or anything light. He was honestly grateful when he heard Naruto's booming voice echo faintly into his cell during the Bija's louder moments. Less so because of Naruto's concern for his survival against the interrogators, but because it confirmed he hadn't been insane in remembering Naruto turning into a fucking Kyuubi no Kitsune of all things. Several other things were adding up in his head: Naruto's pariah status, his red chakra, his birthday. The puzzle was complete, he knew it, he just wasn't in the right state of mind to see it properly. Pun unintended. Perhaps what was almost as frustrating as his failure to escape the village, this imprisonment, and failure to escape said imprisonment, was that he was very sure he wasn't imagining it, referring to the sensation of what he believed to be Naruto staring at him. How a Megaton Fox knew where he was exactly, he wasn't sure. Maybe he heard of the guards talking about him. Maybe he could sense his chakra? It didn't really matter. But he knew the Dobe was aware of him, of where he was. Sasuke smiled an empty smile. He was desperate, he'd admit it. But being imprisoned forever was as good as being dead, so it was worth a shot. Naruto, he spoke, as if his teammate was in the same room. Can you hear me? He smirked as he felt a very distinct rumbling. Not enough to shake, really, but to feel it in one's bones. I need a favor, Sasuke said, and he was sure he felt Naruto's ire and chakra grow heavier. Still, the Uchiha smirked. Please kill Itachi for me. He relaxed against his bonds as Naruto did something. Whatever it was, it made a fairly firm thump, so he took that as a yes. Meanwhile, Naruto groaned and whined, rubbing his chest as he lay on his back with his ears hanging over the Hokage monument. The Nidame's face, he believed, but didn't bother to check. The villagers, after Jiraiya's half-truth of an explanation, had mostly calmed down. But to say that they weren't afraid would be a lie. Still, like the ninja, they were growing used to him slowly, at least to the point of not breaking halfway into a full village-wide panic every time he moved. You okay, Naruto? Iruka asked in concern. This isn't about earlier, is it? Sakura asked with an uncomfortable blush. No, don't bring it up. Naruto answered quickly. Just a bit sore, I guess. Yeah, I think we can all live without reliving that mental image, Sakura, Iruka said, Sakura looking sheepish under her academy teacher's stern look. That wasn't something she was usually on the receiving end of. It turned out that while a mass of living chakra didn't feel as much pain as flesh and blood did, getting stabbed through the chest still hurt like hell. Or maybe it was because he was a new Bijou? Point was, he was still sore, which gave him a convenient excuse to answer Sasuke, in the form of rolling over. Oh, most of any brotherly love he felt for his traitorous teammate had died with Naruto Uzumaki's human body. But he didn't see any harm in this. Regardless of Sasuke's actions, Itachi Uchiha was on Naruto's list of ass-kicking regardless. The elder brother seemed to be after the Kyuubi, and seeing as that was Naruto now, he was pretty sure they'd cross paths again, which Sasuke was probably betting on as well. Not to mention the principle of the matter, Sasuke had been only partially wrong about him not understanding what it was like to have everything taken from him. True, Naruto never had the bonds Sasuke had, with such a large family no less. But Naruto had often thought about what he would do to protect bonds like that. Solitude was a hell Naruto only recently felt he escaped, and it was not too hard for him to imagine the burning hatred of being pushed back into it. The concept of someone killing their own mother, father, uncles, aunts, and many cousins made Naruto repulsed enough as it was. No, Naruto didn't mind giving Itachi some payback on Sasuke's behalf if the opportunity came up. Granted, it was hardly a priority for him in the present. I'd say we could never get enough healers, but I'm not even sure traditional healing jutsu would work on him now, Iruka murmured, scratching his head thoughtfully. Well, if he's technically all chakra, then it should either work even better or not at all. I think Lady Tsunade would be the one to ask, Sakura pondered contemplatively. Guys, I just need some rest, he assured as he carefully rolled over again, closing his eyes. They shared an uncertain look before deciding they wouldn't get further with him right now. If you're sure, Naruto, Iruka said in resignation. We'll see you soon, Sakura promised. Everyone sees me, Sakura, Naruto quipped as he heard them walk away, leaving him alone, mostly alone. A better thing he had to think about. When would the approaching Hinata have the guts to talk to him? It was true he could talk to anyone he wanted to, they didn't have a choice really, as he could hear everyone, but Sakura was right. Coming up here was about as close to getting face to face with anyone he was going to get, but that also meant seeing who was willing to not only go up to the megaton fox, but stand extremely close to his mouth of teeth and enormous claws. He glanced to the tree he knew she was waiting behind before closing them again. Obviously not today. It's not because you're a bijou. Hinata's whisper reached his ears with ease. His eyes shot open at that puzzling statement, but when he looked towards her, she was already taking off in a run. Not because he was bijou. What did that mean? If not that, then why was she so scared to face him? He looked out over the setting sun and wondered just how much more complicated being a tailed beast was going to become. The longest day of both of Naruto's lives finally came to an end as night fell. Jiraiya's falsified yet very convincing speech had assured all listening that Naruto was indeed not the originally Kyuubi, and his bijouification was a result of the fourth Hokage's brilliant sealing jutsu, overachieving due to unlikely outside influence. He had implied Orochimaru, which was true, Naruto supposed, depending on how one viewed the curse marks, at least. With that and Naruto's attitude being grumpy at worst, the villagers found themselves reluctantly calming down. It wasn't out of trust or total reassurance, but one could only be afraid of something for so long before growing tired of it. For now, they accepted Naruto's presence like people accepted finding out a mountain near them was an active volcano. Fear of a local apocalypse buried in the back of their minds, while trying to pretend like it wasn't a problem. Naruto himself slept far more soundly than he had any right to be able to. His ears, his nose, all of his senses should and almost did keep him awake, but the long, draining toll of the day had exhausted him on an emotional and mental level, allowing him to slumber deeply. There were no dreams or nightmares, only a comforting blankness as everything faded away for several blissful hours. Waking up was an interesting experience. It was not the sun that stirred him from unconscious, but the sounds, a dull cacophony of noises built as people arose to go about their day. The longer time went on, the louder and more chaotic it became until he groaned himself awake. To his credit, he managed to keep himself from stretching his massive arms about as he took a great, deep yawn that exposed all of his teeth to the entire village while his tails flexed reflexively before relaxing down again with a plop. He pointedly ignored the momentary silence and the various people rushing to change their pants. "Did they put you on full-time fox duty, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asked as he scratched his neck, glancing to the one-eyed Jonin sitting beneath a tree nearby. "Oh, just for now, but I call it fluffy duty," Kakashi answered with an eye smile. "I see you slept well. Small miracles, I suppose. What about you, Gaara?" Naruto asked to the sand ninja sitting cross-legged on a cloud of sand. "I rested well enough," Gaara answered calmly. "Naruto, are you alright?" Naruto stared at the seemingly monotone, stoic Ichibi Jinchuriki and almost smiled at how obvious the concern was. He had changed a lot since the Chunin exam. "Better than your bunkmate, I imagine," Naruto answered casually, ignoring how Kakashi, Gaara, and several Inbu tensed up at the mention of the other bijou. "He keeping you up at night still?" Naruto asked with a head tilt. Gaara didn't answer for a moment, feeling Shikaku stirring with interest and caution. "Yes, he does," he answered honestly. Naruto shook his head with a sigh at that. "Look, I'm sorry about his brother, or whatever they were, but he really needs to give you some peace and quiet." Kakashi frowned in worry at the conversation. "Is he threatening the Ichibi?" "He says he will think about it," Gaara relayed slowly, feeling very awkward. Naruto hummed absently. "I never got around to saying it earlier, Gaara. But thanks for helping with the rescue mission. That goes for your brother and sister too." "Yes, that means you, makeup boy," Naruto called out, smirking in the general direction of where the Sand siblings were in the village, seeing them jump away from the windows, first upside to being a megaton fox. "It can be fun knowing where everyone is." "Do you enjoy scaring people, Naruto?" Gaara asked curiously as he tilted his head. "More like surprising them," Naruto answered, scratching his head sheepishly. "But seriously, thanks. If not for you guys I would have lost some friends. While our recent history may cast doubt on it, our villages are allies," Gaara remarked calmly. "So it's just a coincidence that you three, of all sand ninja, showed up?" Naruto countered with an amused, knowing smile. "I never said that," Gaara retorted with a hint of movement at his lips. "Is that a smile?" Naruto asked cheekily, enjoying the exchange despite the size difference. I have no idea what you are talking about, and you have no proof to the contrary, Gaara stated factually. Ha! Well, I'm just glad you patched up things with Bushy Brow. By the way, how'd he do in the fight? He only recently got himself fixed up by Granny Tsunade, Naruto questioned curiously, turning to the village in annoyance. Lee, shut up. You and me are alike enough for me to know you wouldn't admit you weren't getting better even if you weren't. Gaara raised an eyebrow at the exchange but continued on without question. He performed adequately under the circumstances. His power is not as great as during our battle, but more than enough to deal with lesser foes. I'm just going to take that all as good news on his part though. Could you have Imagely opening a gate or two? That bone forest probably wouldn't be there, Naruto joked with a chuckle before blinking, looking to an observing Kakashi-sensei. Did you tell Granny about the bone forest? 'Cause she's wondering what the hell we're talking about. I assumed Lee would, seeing as that was his battle? Kakashi answered in confusion himself. Hey, Granny! Did you ever call the others in to report while I was asleep? Naruto called out, his long ears quirked in question. Kakashi's sweat dropped at the audible boom and far-off cursing. I'll take that as a no, the Jonin mused to himself. So, Naruto? Any issues? Because if you need to take a leak or anything, we'd appreciate you moving a few miles downwind, Kakashi advised with an eye smile. Haha, very funny, sensei, Naruto retorted with an eye roll. I was completely serious, Kakashi stated flatly. Naruto stiffened with an embarrassed expression. Well, that hasn't come up yet. I'm also not technically hungry, Naruto admitted reluctantly. How can someone be technically hungry? Gaara asked with a creased brow. Look, I don't need food or anything, but I'll probably go insane without Bija-sized ramen eventually, Naruto answered with a grumble. Gaara quirked his head as he stared at Naruto for a long time. Naruto, is there a reason you can't just use a transformation jutsu? A transformation jutsu? Naruto repeated without comprehension, his mouth opened again before freezing in realization. The village growing extremely quiet as the fox continued to look thoughtful before moving to get up. No. A great outcry of many ninjas, including Kakashi, all started calling out to Naruto to urge him to stop in his perceived actions. Everyone shut up! Naruto yelled over them all, rubbing his giant ears. Okay, look! I'm not that stupid. Now I am going to go a couple miles that way, Naruto stated, jabbing a finger over his shoulder, and see if this can't be solved by a damn Academy Jutsu, NBU, and everyone else keeping an eye on me? I'm a Bijou. I'll be within line of sight for a long ways away. So, in other words, stay as close to me as you think your hazard pay is worth, Naruto stated matter-of-factly. Kakashi sighed deeply as he watched the golden kitsune turned about carefully, rumbling the village somewhat before he began to walk away. With a blank stare, he turned to Gaara, who was watching as his giant friend departed. Whatever happens next, I blame on you, kid, Kakashi stated in exasperation. Who are you again? Gaara asked as he glanced down at the Leaf Jonin. Oh, no one special, just the one who invented the Chidori, Kakashi answered with an eye smile before vanishing in a body flicker to chase after the blonde behemoth. Tsunade wiped a hand over her face as she watched various ninja leap up the Hokage monument to chase after the Bijou. Jiraiya, can he even use a jutsu like that? She questioned, turning her gaze to the Toad Sage. Why do you act like I'm some expert on tailed beasts? Jiraiya retorted, clearly frustrated for his own reasons. I mean, summons can use jutsus, and the Bijou have various abilities that work like jutsu, but both are highly specialized to each creature, meaning this could either work perfectly or Tsunade stopped as a very distant boom echoed into her office, followed by a dull rumble. Son of a bitch! Naruto's voice could be heard, far away but still very clear. End in disaster, as always, Tsunade said with a sigh as she returned to the window, seeing a column of smoke or steam rising from miles away. Well, at least he was smart enough to do this away from the village, Jiraiya pointed out, only to blink as another explosion erupted. Damn it! Naruto yelled again, this time more frustrated than shocked. Come on, you stupid jutsu, and too stubborn to accept that it won't work, Tsunade said with a sigh. Fucking come on! Jiraiya's look became concerned as he heard Naruto's outburst. Tsunade, I don't think that's stubbornness, he said solemnly. Meanwhile, Kakashi braced himself as Naruto went through the hand seals yet again, a blazing aura of golden chakra burning around his giant fox body. He was getting used to the feeling of it, but it was hard to shrug off such powerful waves of chakra. The glow grew brighter, blinding even, and just like the other times, the jutsu blew up in Naruto's face. Literally, Naruto growled as he was knocked on his back once more. Just let this work, damn it! Naruto spat out as he forced himself back up and did it again. Singed marks on the fur of his head, torso, and hands growing with every attempted. Naruto! Give it a rest. This isn't helping anything. Kakashi called out urgently from a treetop. I know! Naruto answered even as he proceeded to try the jutsu again. This is bad, Tenzo remarked, the ANBU making his appearance on a branch below Kakashi. Should I try and dash? Try and what, Tenzo? Naruto interrupted, turning to glare at the tiny masked man, frozen at the sight of so many teeth bared in a snarl. Try and do what? Naruto, that's enough! Kakashi reprimanded sternly. Tenzo, I know what he is, sensei. Naruto continued as he focused in on the ANBU. Or were you just too stupid to realize that when I heard Tsunade say your name, I got a pretty good idea of why you're halfway up my ass at all times? Naruto, I don't want to hurt you, Tenzo declared tensely, hands in a seal already. The whole world froze as Naruto slammed a mighty fist down to the side, the limb halfway embedded in the ground, sending earth and trees flying as Kakashi and Tenzo clutched to their tree while a typhoon of wind blasted by them. When they looked up, they saw Naruto's enormous face, covered partially in black from the backfired jutsus. Don't you get it? You can't hurt me, Naruto declared as he glared down at the humans. I'm already. Naruto, Kakashi called softly, Tenzo slowly putting his hands down as he saw the exact same thing Kakashi did. Naruto was crying. I'm already dead. Naruto finished choking back a sob as he broke his glare. I died back in that valley. I'm never going to sleep in my bed, eat with my friends, or train with my team. I'm never going to be me again. So forgive me if I wanted to try a few more times before giving up the one good shot I had of getting that back. And just like that, Naruto turned and walked away from them in a sulk. They watched as he went. It wasn't far before he suddenly stopped and sat down, his head hunched over with his ears drooped. Was that my fault? Tenzo asked cautiously. No, Tenzo, that was inevitable, Kakashi assured with a heavy sigh. I thought it would take longer to sink in. But Naruto was bound to have a bad reaction eventually. I know I'm only supposed to act if he becomes a threat to the village, but I was honestly worried he was becoming a threat to himself, Tenzo stated in concern. Naruto's only suicidal and the doesn't quit variety, Kakashi said, more to himself than anyone else, as he watched Naruto's form with a sorrowful eye. He winced as he heard something he never heard. Try as the giant fox might, Naruto couldn't suppress his sobs. Meanwhile, Naruto's soft cries couldn't be heard by most of the village, and those that did were only able because of how quiet the village had become. But all had heard the sorrowful, grieving outbursts, prompting a heavy silence filled much of Konoha as words of his cries spread. Naruto's crying? Ino said with an awkward yet sympathetic look on her face as she looked out of the hospital window. What did you expect? Shikamaru asked with a sigh. Yeah, I mean, I'd be crying too if I got stuck in my clan's full expansion jutsu, Choji said, almost grumbling due to the bandages all over his body. You're just saying that because you'd starve, Ino retorted with an eye roll. Yes? Choji answered, feeling that was obvious, even forgetting that he's a nine-tailed fox, and thus the subject of many fears caused by the previous fox. Whatever we're calling it now, he's stuck in a body that's just too big to live with humans. And everything he's ever wanted to achieve is more or less impossible, even for Naruto. Shikamaru elaborated with a deep sigh, and all because his best friend put a lightning fist through his stomach. I thought it was a lightning blade, Choji asked, tilting his head and wincing at some of his wounds. I thought it was 1,000 chirping birds, Ino added idly. What a drag, Shikamaru muttered, point being, he was already hyper enough. Add in emotional problems and no way to work off by training or anything like that. Shikamaru pointed out, quirking a hollow smile. How ironic, Naruto might be one of the most powerful beings in the world now, and he can't even enjoy it. How messed up is that? Extremely. Team Asuma turned in surprise to see Kiba of all people leaning on the doorway. Sorry, came for a checkup and overheard you guys talking, he greeted with a half-hearted grin. Kiba, glad to see you're doing well. How's Akamaru? Shikamaru asked. Pretty well, milking my sister's affections all he can. I'm just sorry we missed the ride home, Kiba said with a chuckle, glancing over at Choji's much skinnier form. Wow. Mom always warned me about calling you Tubby, but never told me why, Kiba remarked. Yeah, well, Dad never had to explain to me why not to call you Dog Breath, Choji returned with a chuckle. Oh, like you ever had the guts to, Kiba countered with a friendly snort before sighing. So yeah, I'll stop ignoring the fox in the room. What do we do about Naruto? 'Cause I got to tell you, man, I should be happy he's crying after that fart to the face trick he pulled on me. But hearing that idiot like this is a bit too much, Kiba remarked with a wince. What can we do? He's a megaton fox, as he puts it, Shikamaru said with a raised eyebrow. What could we possibly do to cheer him up when he need a lake of ramen to even remotely have enough to taste? I don't know. You're the genius, Chunin. I was hoping you'd know. Kiba retorted. There isn't enough food or water for him. He can't do more than talk to anybody. And he has to keep an eye on where he walks if he does more than stand up, Shikamaru remarked, frankly. I never thought about it. But I'm not sure what the bijou even did before they were sealed. They don't need to eat, and as far as I know, we're almost never in the same area as each other. So I'm a bit at a lose for fun ideas to entertain giant masses of chakra. Kiba, does your family have a dog summoning contract or anything? Ino asked randomly. No, why? Kiba answered in confusion. Well, summoned creatures can be gigantic too, so I thought Naruto could appreciate some company. Ino answered with a shrug. Why dogs though? We already know the Sannin have toads and slugs like that, Kiba reminded in confusion. Well, I'm assuming Aiki would work better for Naruto if it was a more similar build, Ino answered simply. What are you, Evo, what the hell? Kiba exclaimed as his face went red in embarrassment. Oh ho ho, that kind of company. Oh, it hurts to laugh, but I don't care. Choji stated over pained laughs. Really, Ino? Really? Shikamaru asked in exasperation. What? We know that part of him still works after yesterday with Sakura, and as perverted as it sounds, Naruto at least deserves to get laid after everything that happened, seeing as there isn't much else he can enjoy at the moment, Ino defended with her hands on her hips. Why do you put these images in my mind? Kiba exclaimed, rubbing his eyes furiously. I can see it when I close my eyes. Oh please, I know your clan isn't into bestiality. But don't pretend like you haven't seen the dogs humping each other before, Ino countered with an eye roll. Great, now we just got to find a summoning scroll for giant foxes or something, and the whole village suffers from the largest and weirdest version of having loud, horny neighbors, Shikamaru pointed out dryly. It's not like he's on a leash, Shikamaru. He can just take it down south to a beach or something, Ino waved off. Guys, for the love of God, stop talking. Kiba instructed with a humiliated look on his face. What's up with you? Shikamaru asked with a raised eyebrow. Open the window, Kiba instructed with a groan. Ino blinked, but did as requested. She nearly jumped back as she realized now that Naruto's sobs had, at some point, turned to laughter. Is he? Laughing at us? Yes, he heard everything, Kiba informed in resignation. Damn, just how far can he hear from? Ino asked in amazement. How can he even make us out over everyone else in the village? Choji asked in confusion. Who knows, he's a living mass of chakra, Shikamaru said with a shrug before looking very resigned. Who is never going to let us live this down? Meanwhile, Tenzo's sweat dropped at the sight of a golden Kyuubi rolling around in laughter and slapping its fists against the ground. The laugh was nearly deafening this close, and a large patch of forest was being flattened into a future plain, with a few large crevices. Kakashi, should we be worried? Tenzo asked uncertainly. Why? The landscaping department will have it cleaned up and chakra trees replanted within a week, Kakashi pointed out casually. A relatively unknown fact about ninja villages is that they all had a landscaping department. Given how destructive ninjas could be sometimes, it was deemed important enough to have teams to fix the landscapes of their home countries, restoring the terrain when able. No, I mean about Naruto. Suddenly bursting in laughter? Tenzo pointed out. Oh, that, no, I wouldn't worry. I'm sure he just heard a funny joke being told back in the village, Kakashi answered with an eye smile, inwardly relieved by Naruto's change in demeanor. Thanks, Ino. I needed that. Naruto yelled loudly, his voice echoing back into the village before returning to laughing. So should we be concerned he knows about my wood style? Tenzo asked curiously. Not really. He's avoided actually saying you have it, so it's not like he told everyone about it, Kakashi pointed out, though. I'm wondering how Ino got involved in anything. It's more like she wants to get me involved with something, Sensei, Naruto answered with a grin as his laughter slowly faded into a few chuckles. His gigantic size made them sound far more ominous than his expression would indicate. I am almost afraid to ask, Kakashi stated with a sweat drop. So, Naruto? Want to talk about anything? No, I'm out of my funk and I'm not going back into it until I have to, Naruto answered bluntly. Fair enough, I suppose, Kakashi accepted with a shrug. So, Naruto? Can we get back to the village? Fluffy duty is about over for me.